Okay, now, though, they say the shelter in place has been lifted. So, as you can see, this is live, raw, and unfiltered. This is what we do here. Things move very, very fast, and we work on getting you the latest information as we get it here. So now, the shelter in place has been lifted. The suspect is in custody, and we wait for police to hopefully come on. Exactly happened. It's about 9:40 there, Central Time, and so we'll be on the lookout for that. And we'll be on the lookout for any images or video of, the perp walk of the suspect, the arrest of the suspect, more video from the scene. We're also, I think we have one of the shots outside of a hospital, possibly, where we possibly have multiple live looks from the scene, from maybe a hospital where victims have been taken. This is very preliminary at the moment. We want to thank you for being here with us at Live Now from Fox. That is the latest update in that story here. We're going to take just a quick commercial break. We want to get into some more of these other top stories that we brought you earlier today, including an update on that tragic stabbing rampage that happened in Saskatchewan, Canada, last weekend. 10 people were stabbed to death. Now the last of the 2 suspects has been taken into custody as well. We'll have that update in 2 minutes. Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox on this very busy Wednesday. I know I sound like a broken record, but we have a few more stories that we want to give you updates on, including that tragic stabbing rampage that happened over the weekend in Saskatchewan province, Canada. Well, now we are learning, and we learned this earlier this afternoon, that Canadian police said today they had taken into custody the last remaining suspect out of the 2, the second suspect that was wanted in the weekend stabbing spree that killed 10 people in and around an Indigenous tribal reserve. Okay, so they arrested Miles Sanderson. He's 30 years old. He was taken into custody on this 4th day of an intense manhunt after authorities said he and his older brother were responsible for the stabbings. Now, his older brother, Damien, was found dead on Monday. We don't have any details about that particular death, what might have taken place there. All we know is police said that it was not self-inflicted. So Royal Canadian Mounted Police said there is no longer a risk to public safety relating to this investigation. They say 18 other people were wounded in the rampage. It ranks among the deadliest attacks in Canada's modern history. Police said some of the victims appeared to have been targeted, while others were apparently random. Authorities, unfortunately, have offered no motive for the attacks. In the meantime, we did hear from some of the victims' family members speaking out today. No doubt they're still in shock and mourning. This was before the news came to them that the last remaining of the two suspects is now in custody by Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Let's just listen in. This is very, very tragic and sad, but you can hear the pain in their voice. This very small, rural, indigenous tribal community rocked to its core.
Brian's three other boys, Mason, Mason, and Grayson. Today we're going to do a three-step process here, which is actually talk about our family members, about the people they were, so people understand the loving, caring person that Bonnie was. First and foremost, we have two communities that are very close here, which is my community, and a lot of my family are in here, aunts, uncles of Bonnie, from the Muskeg Cree Nation. We are close to the James Smith Cree Nation people.
As you get older, weight loss gets a little harder.
Went down, and then the way it happened. You know, the eyewitness account at Poplar and Auburndale was pretty gruesome, honestly, that there would be this car crash, someone acting like he was hurt just so someone would come approach him and that he would shoot that person for no apparent reason. We have another report that we're going to get now from, who's the reporter again? Oh, Jay, I'm sorry, Jay Shakur. Are you still in Raleigh, or have you moved locations?
I've moved locations. I'm currently at the university. As you can see, traffic is picking up just a little bit here, as you can see. Just as police lifted that shelter-in-place order and the University of Memphis gave the all-clear, traffic has now began picking up. You see a few students walking, but at first when we initially arrived, it was an eerie scene. Not too many people walking, but I have seen students begin to walk across campus, and some students get in their car and presumably go about their evening. But as I mentioned, it was an eerie scene initially when we first got here, not too much movement. But at the moment they listed that order, students have resumed activity.
Well, you would hope that they would be able to do that now that we know that we've gotten that gotten the all clear here and that the shelter-in-place order has been lifted. Did you hear whether or not there was actually a victim? Was anyone shot at the location, or was it just reports of shots fired there near the U of M campus? Have you been able to gather any information on that, Jay?
Haven't been able to gather any updated or new information about that. We do know that the University of Memphis was on lockdown due to preliminary reports of shots fired, but haven't gathered any information, can't confirm if anyone was injured or anything to that nature.
Okay, well, you know, and that is possible that there were shots fired and maybe someone was shot at, but hopefully, and maybe there will be a couple of cases where no one was hit. Maybe that's one such a case there. We have just received word from MATA that they have resumed service, bus service and trolley service in Memphis, so that is another sign that things are returning to normal. And as I mentioned, order has been lifted, the suspect has been caught. Things starting to hopefully calm down a little bit tonight as we get into the late hours here, as we've been covering this breaking news for you most of the evening. And we're waiting now for the biggest piece, is to find out what happened here with this guy, Zeke Kelly, who caused all this concern and this huge reaction from Memphis police, the effect that had on tens of thousands of people who had to shelter in place. It was like nothing I've ever seen in the time I've been here, and we want to know a lot of information about what's his story. How was he apprehended? Was there any other victims that we haven't been told about? Lots of questions there. Do we have another reporter we're going to hear from? Or did I misunderstand our producer in the booth? Okay, I did misunderstand the producer in the booth. It won't be the first or last time on that fact either. All right, so if we can, I just want to tell you what you're looking at right here. This is Whitehaven, the neighborhood specifically around Lakeview and Sedgwick, and this is not that far away, perhaps just feet, given where the crime scene tape has been put up and where the cars are located there, not that far away from where Memphis police, after an intense manhunt that went for hours and after several shootings, several victims, where they finally were able to apprehend the suspect, 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly, who goes by the nickname Zeke. Lots of unanswered questions about the actual apprehension and the actual arrest. We hope to get to that shortly, but this is where it all ended. But there are many other scenes to show you too. For example, the scene in Raleigh, the AutoZone store there, where the suspect, we're told, walked into the store there on Jackson and shot a guy there. Whereas the scene at Poplar and Auburndale, more in Midtown Evergreen area, where there was a 4-car crash where the suspect pretended to be hurt or was acting like he was hurt, according to eyewitness accounts, and then shot a woman who came over to help him. There's the scene at Patterson and Southern. Our reporter Jay Shakur was near that location, near the U of M campus, where we understand there was a shooting, but from what we've been able to gather and from what he's been able to see so far, we're not sure that there was actually a victim there. And there's also the shooting that we're told Memphis police believe is connected to this, that occurred at the 900 block of East Parkway South, also in the Cooper Young area, where there was another victim for sure, and one that they believe was related to the shooting rampage that we've been telling you about tonight. So a lot of different locations, a lot of fluid details for us to try and keep up with and try to make sense of, and then try to also confirm as much as we can before we bring it to you. And that hasn't always been easy to do, but we've been very careful to refrain from be very judicious about what we actually report to you based on what we're seeing and hearing on social media about this. We know that the information we've relayed to you tonight is as accurate as it can be based on what we're hearing from Memphis police and our eyes and ears on the ground in the form of reporters, and then the interviews that they have done with eyewitnesses. That's the best we can do, and hopefully we'll get some clarity, some clarification as this evening progresses. So we want to go to Regional 1 now. Hopefully Brad Broders is there for us, and Brad, I understand you're going to be able to give us some information, some details on any victims, I guess, who were taken to Regional 1 after being shot or caught up in this rampage?
Yeah, Richard, we're just wanting to spread out across Shelby County and the Memphis area. We're here at Regional 1 because obviously this is the region's trauma center. As you can see behind me, you can see that there's a lot of police activity here at Regional 1 next to the ambulance bay. This is on par with what you would see when a law enforcement officer is shot or injured. I've unfortunately, in my 7 years here, been on this street many times for such an incident. But with this active shooter now in custody, looking behind me right now here at Regional 1, this scene with a police activity behind me is on par with when a law enforcement officer is shot or injured. Obviously, we're trying to identify if any other injured people are treated here. I've been on scene here for less than 5 minutes, but as you can see, it's still a very active scene with a lot of law enforcement here at Regional 1 Medical Center. We're just arrived on scene. We're trying to gather more details from Regional 1, but we just want to make sure we're covered in all places across the Memphis area. Just arrived on scene here at Regional 1 Medical Center, but as you can see, a very active law enforcement presence behind me in wake of this active shooter situation earlier in the evening. That active shooter now in custody, according to Memphis police. Richard.
All right, very good. And Brad obviously only been there 5 minutes, as he said, so he's had not enough time, barely enough time to turn on the camera, let alone find out information on what, if any, victims may have been taken there. But obviously we'll let you have a break now, Brad, so you can try and ascertain that and see if that is in fact the case. And hopefully we'll be hearing some information about where victims may have been taken as well once Memphis police issue their statement, which we hope is coming at any moment, or at least that's how it was promised to us, and we do expect that to come pretty quickly. Okay, so let's see, we're approaching, I should say, the 10 o'clock hour. Before we restart here, I want to go to Yvonne one last time. Yvonne Thomas has been our reporter on the scene there at Lakeview and Sedgwick, I think you said, Yvonne, where Ezekiel Kelly was apprehended this evening and was taken away into custody.
Yes, yes, yes. A lot going on right now, Richard. As you can see, it looks like crews are getting ready to leave. Actually, large trucks, large tank-like trucks are leaving where we are right now at Lakeview and Sedgwick. Definitely still an extremely active scene here. Again, we are about 800 feet away from where that shelter-in-place order was a few minutes ago near Ivan and Hodge. About 800 feet is where we are from where that scene is. But again, look at all these tanks and these cars that are leaving, all of these vehicles. I want to make it very clear, we have not seen the shooter, but again, we were told he was apprehended nearby in this area. Again, Blue Light Lounge is right behind, was right in front of us, really, to the left of us, and that area is looking to clear out as well. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more details. Again, no news right now from Memphis Police about whether or not they're going to speak to us here at this location, or if they're going to choose another place, or what that will be in the next few minutes or maybe few hours. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more. But again, very active here and a lot of moving parts, as you've been mentioning all night, Richard.
It was interesting to see so many armored vehicles leave there. That is something you don't see every day. But it does look like they are de-escalating quite a bit now, as you see a lot of them pull away from there. But yeah, Blue Light Lounge, that name has never been more appropriate than it was tonight, because there's been plenty of blue lights around the Blue Light Lounge tonight. Rudy Williams is joining me now as we approach the 10 o'clock hour. Rudy, it's been quite a night, as you know, and the kind that is hard to describe. As long as you and I have been in Memphis and covering news and crimes in Memphis, nothing quite like this before.
It is, Richard. You know, I've been sitting in the newsroom and making calls and making contacts with people in the community here. And just as it was a scary situation for everybody out in the streets, and I'll talk about those stories that I've heard, it was a frantic situation for us in the newsroom as well, especially with the week that we've had that you spoke about earlier with all the other incidents that have happened. And even for us in this business, sometimes it's very difficult to believe what we're hearing when we first hear it. And we are set out to do our jobs and bring you the latest information as our viewers and our audience, and keeping you safe. And that's what we've been on air doing all this evening, making sure that people around the city and the surrounding areas know exactly what's going on, because as this timeline has developed, businesses closed down. Businesses went on lockdown, looking after their patrons and the people that are there with their businesses. So it's very important that we make sure in these situations that we keep our audiences up to date and very well informed on what's happening. I spoke with several people that are members of my church. My church is in Midtown on Peabody, and they were in choir rehearsal. They went into lockdown there, sheltered in place. As many people who could, who live in the parish or the neighborhood, get home very quickly, get home safely to their families, they did so. That was the case, as you can imagine, around this city, because this is Wednesday night, after all, and Wednesday night is a night for prayer meeting, Bible study, and those sorts of things that happen at churches traditionally in our cities. So there were plenty of people that were out and about. A friend of mine had a mother who was in Midtown at the moment. She was actually in Overton Square at a restaurant, and immediately upon hearing the news got into her car and drove to South Memphis to get to safety. So lots of those stories that have happened during the course of this evening with this incident unfolding right in front of us, Richard.
Well, you bring up the church situation. Of course, Wednesday night is a big church night, and you know, we were talking to Brittany Moncrief, our reporter, who was at a restaurant in Midtown, talking to a friend who was at a restaurant in East Memphis. You know, it was a massive impact on tens of thousands of people. We'll never be able to get to all the stories. There will be so many, but it shows you the breadth of this particular crime and this rampage, and the toll it took on a lot of people who just had nothing other to do than go about the business of their day, and had everything interrupted by one person. Let's go to Brad Broders, who I understand we talked to him earlier. He was at the Regional 1 trying to get some information. I understand you have something for us, Brad?
Yeah, Richard, just in the last couple of minutes, just to hear, I've been here about 5 to 10 minutes, but what I've observed right now is you can see a lot of law enforcement guarding the ambulance bay. They are armed with longer weapons than typically you might see. A lot of police presence here at Regional 1. You can hear kind of off here on Jefferson, there has been some screaming, some emotion. I don't know if that by any chance is friends or loved ones of any of the victims affected in tonight's active shooter situation. That active shooter, again, is now in custody. However, you can hear kind of off a little bit away a lot of, there's been some screaming, some crying, and law enforcement remains very active on this scene. You can see behind me a lot of armed guard law enforcement here. Like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Richard, typically the law enforcement presence you see would be if a law enforcement member was injured or shot in the line of duty, but with what the city has been through tonight, this active law enforcement presence at Regional 1 is different than you might normally see for a shooting or shootings, but with this active shooter situation that has had Memphis on edge throughout the evening, active shooter now in custody, thankfully, but still you can see there's a lot of just the reinforcements here, precautions at Regional 1. We're not sure if any other victims will arrive here, if all the victims affected by tonight are here, waiting on those details. But Richard, that's the situation right now at Regional 1. But again, a heavy law enforcement presence. I can hear crying, emotion in the distance. So again, not sure if that's connected to anything related to the active shooter tonight, but still a very active scene and emotional and volatile at the same time, Richard.
All right, thank you, Brad. It is 10 o'clock in Memphis, Tennessee, and it has been quite a night here, folks. We're going to run it all down for you the best we can with live team coverage. And I'm going to bring in Rudy Williams, who's going to help me out here because, Rudy, it's been quite a night as we try to digest for folks and piece together what's happened tonight. What we can tell people is that we had a shooting rampage that spread across the city that affected multiple victims and multiple locations.
That's right, Richard. All across the city, and it was astounding to see how many locations this suspect actually hit before we came to the end just moments ago with police apprehending the suspect. And it started, as we know, in Raleigh with the shooting at a AutoZone car parts store in that part of the city and eventually moved south. You're looking at the accused shooter right now, Ezekiel Kelly. This gentleman is 19 years old, and people, as we have talked about all evening, witnessed a Facebook Live where he talked about and also shot someone on the Facebook Live. So that is very frightening to see something like that with your own eyes, to have that sort of thing happen in front of you. To also know that there is someone on the loose with a firearm and not knowing exactly where that person is, Richard.
You talked about the shooting location that we know about at the AutoZone Park that was broadcast live. I want to bring breaking news within breaking news, if there is such a thing, because we have just received confirmation that court records show that an arrest warrant was filed today for Ezekiel Kelly for murder, and it was unrelated to any of the issues related to this shooting rampage. So before any of this happened tonight, they wanted to arrest him for another murder. We don't know anything about that murder other than what I can tell you that has happened, and it happened today. Ezekiel Kelly wanted for another murder unrelated to any of what's happened related to this rampage tonight. So Rudy, that gives us some context that Ezekiel was being pursued already, and then we had the shooting rampage that, as far as we can tell, started at the AutoZone Park or AutoZone store on Jackson in Raleigh, and then there are three other locations that we've been able to surmise happened more close to each other, roughly in the Midtown area. There's the Patterson and Southern shooting, which was. We don't know that there was a victim there, but we know it was worrisome enough and enough shots were fired that the U of M campus went on lockdown tonight. We also know there was a shooting at Poplar and Auburndale where a female victim, was killed. We also know that there was a shooting on East Parkway South near Cooper Young which we are told the police believe was related. And then it all ended right here. The scene you're looking at, is this a live picture we're looking at? Yes, it is. This is in Whitehaven, in the area near Lakeview and Sedgwick, where we're told the suspect, Ezekiel Kelly, was finally apprehended after creating hours of terror in the city of Memphis tonight that led to multiple victims at multiple locations. Rudy, you know, the shelter in place, we talked about that in the 9 o'clock hour when you were joining me, about not only restaurants and a number of our coworkers and friends and people who were out and about and were told to shelter in place today, but churches that were also having prayer services and other things were also told the same thing. And it gives you an idea of the absolute magnitude that this event has had on the city of Memphis tonight.
No doubt about it, Richard. And you know, we mentioned earlier, just a little while ago, that this whole thing started at an AutoZone, as far as we know, in Raleigh. But AutoZone also comes up again because tonight in downtown Memphis, outside of the areas that were affected by the suspect and shooting or other components of this whole thing, AutoZone Park had just begun a baseball game for the Redbirds, and they suspended the game tonight. They have since released a statement saying that they will resume that game in the bottom of the first inning tomorrow night at 5:05. But that just goes to show how many things across this city were affected by this incident tonight. As you look across social media and as you've talked to people across our city, and many of our other colleagues here in the station have talked to other people, there was a sense of concern, a sense of worry for their fellow Memphians, for family and for friends, because something like this could go so many ways. And as we monitored this situation, and just as police did, it was kind of hard to figure out where one lone actor would go. We're going to go back to the hospital right now, to Regional 1 in the medical district in downtown Memphis, where we find our Brad Broders with the latest information there. Brad?
Yeah, good evening, Rudy and Richard. We have an update which may be connected. This is unconfirmed right now, but we may have a potential family member of one of the victims in the shooting. I'm not going to name names, obviously, out of respect for the family as we're trying to confirm this, but I'm hearing from a family member on social media saying that, according to a friend or family member, that a person is out of surgery but not out of the woods as the bullet hit his intestines. He is in recovery, and they will have to operate again in a couple of days. Thanking God as our comforter. He is in charge, and we are faithful to him. This possibly is a family member connected to potentially one of the victims tonight in this active shooting situation. I've been on the scene for about 10 minutes working to get any confirmation of how many victims have been treated here at Regional 1. But as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, a very heavy law enforcement presence here outside the ambulance bay at Regional 1 Medical Center, which is the area's leading trauma facility. We've also noticed that law enforcement has rifles out outside of the ambulance bay. That is abnormal for this kind of situation, even when a law enforcement member is hit or injured in the line of duty. I've never seen such a situation where law enforcement is guarding the ambulance bay with rifles. So that is a unique observation that I've noticed in the last couple of minutes being here at Regional 1. Just a difficult night for the city of Memphis after a very difficult week earlier with the Eliza Fletcher case that we continue to follow as well, Richard and Rudy. But we believe there may be some family members already weighing in on social media, potentially connected to this. Again, we are working to confirm with Regional 1 how many victims have been taken here and are currently being treated here tonight. As soon as we know that information, we will bring that. But again, our teams are covered across the Memphis area as we continue to follow this very fluid situation following a night of an active shooter across the Memphis area. Again, that active shooter in custody, according to Memphis police. Live at Regional 1, I'm Brad Broders.
All right, thank you, Brad. As you mentioned, a tough week for this city. Getting a text from a friend in St. Louis, awful week for Memphis. A text from my daughter in Denver, what's going on in Memphis? And that's what happens when you have these kinds of just terrifying random crimes that everyone can relate to, like what if that were me? And we can see ourselves in that situation and rightfully have concern. But the good news here is Memphis police did their best, and they worked hard and they worked fast, and they caught this guy relatively quickly, not before he did some significant damage to families, loss of life, loss of property, and all of the above. during the course of this evening is at that location in Whitehaven where he was finally apprehended. Ezekiel Kelly, Yvonne, we're learning, had an arrest warrant for murder one earlier today before any of this started.
A lot of new information coming in, Richard. Thank you for sharing that. The scene here has changed quite a bit from what we were seeing and looking at earlier this evening, maybe about 20 to 30 minutes ago. Definitely 10 minutes ago, we saw a lot of armored vehicle, a lot of tanks, it looked like, coming out of this area, and a lot of police cars have now left. There are still some police cars here, still a few police officers as well, and they've resecured that perimeter around this area. Again, this is Lakeview and Sedgwick. Now, what I can tell you is that there are people here at the scene. There have been people at the scene. We spoke with a gentleman named Arturo who was actually here at this scene, but he was actually at that AutoZone as well and just described what he saw at that location. He says he saw someone get shot, and he's hoping and praying that that person is okay. But he was there, he says, with his church group, and that they were doing some ministry in that area, but that also several kids, he says, were nearby. But he also mentioned and went on to say about just how devastating this week has been. It's been a very, very heavy week for many families here in the city of Memphis and for the world who is watching Memphis this week for a lot of different things. This, unfortunately, is another incident that people are looking for and looking for new information. We are still waiting to see if Memphis police will give us an update live on camera, on television, to see exactly what happened, what caused all of this, what was the motive behind all of this. The good news tonight, though, is that it looks like it all is over. Richard.
Well, let me ask you, Yvonne, I see that there's the 1 or 2 squad cars remaining. Have they told you why they're sticking around, or what's their, how long they plan to be there tonight? Any information about where they're going from here? Because it's looking less and less likely that they're going to be making a statement from that location as people keep pulling out.
Any of that information to us, but definitely they are still securing this perimeter. They have us secured right here at Sedgwick and Lakeview, but they also have maybe a few hundred feet behind us. There's caution tape and crime scene tape there as well. You can see the blue light lounge to the left of us. There's actually crime scene tape back there also as well. We're going to keep you updated as long as they are here. We're going to keep our eyes and our ears open as soon as we hear any updates from Memphis Police. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Yvonne. And Rudy, that's what we're waiting for, is this some kind of statement, some kind of information from MPD, which they said was going to be forthcoming shortly. You know, we got to give them a break here. They've got a lot of information, it sounds like, to try and assemble, given the number of locations that we're talking about and victims too. But that really will go a long way toward answering questions that not just reporters have, but viewers too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Richard. And we've got to think about a police force that is heavily taxed tonight at this time, because we are still not up to complement with our police department at this point in time. So covering such a large area today, that was a lot of ground to cover for these officers tonight, and a lot of information to digest, and investigation still going on as we look at this crime scene live right now. This is Poplar and Evergreen. This is one of the areas that was shut down during the search, during the quest to find this shooter this afternoon. And once again, his name is Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old, and as Richard said earlier, he goes by the nickname of Zeke. And he obviously has a record here and is accused of murder just today. So officers have quite a bit on their hands here. That shot that Yvonne was showing just a little while ago, and her location right now is north of Rains Road. And Hodge runs north off Rains Road, is what I meant to say there. And it then turns into, it looks like Lakeview, if I'm correct, and runs on up to Winchester, or to Graves Road, rather. Winchester Road, excuse me. And that club is right there, that lounge is right there in that area, and around there it's very residential. So we've seen this evening that neighborhoods have been affected, business districts have been affected, interstates have been affected tonight by this one lone shooter who went on this rampage across the city this evening, terrorizing the residents of this city. But it's very clear, as we heard Yvonne say earlier, that there was huge concern for people, for life here in the Memphis area, for all the things that have happened, that have been in the news locally and nationally this week. We also see the goodness of people, and that definitely came out tonight as everyone tried to figure out exactly what was happening once again in the city of Memphis, but how could each one of us lend a hand in this situation.
Yeah, and if we could do more than that, we would. But it's the best we can do is help our fellow man and woman and be good Samaritans, good citizens, and help one another out, and try to remember that a vast majority of us are from that frame of mind. We're not. We're looking out for each other. We care about each other. Memphians are known for that, and it's just hard to accept that we've had to deal with what we've had to deal with this week for sure, and the impact it's had. And you went through it very well. All the different businesses, roadways, you name it, it's been substantial. You had the city's bus service shut down today. MATA had to suspend service. You mentioned AutoZone Park. Right in the middle of a baseball game. It doesn't get any more Americana than that, than a AAA Redbirds game downtown, and that having to be suspended and I guess postponed now until tomorrow when they hope to pick up play again. So just a number of, and I don't want to leave out the U of M campus, also concerned enough that they had to go on lockdown. So just, you're talking about some major institutions, major landmarks in this city, all impacted in a very short period of time by just one guy with a gun who was intent on causing chaos and apparently had no remorse about destroying lives if he was already wanted for murder one before any of this started tonight. Okay, let's go back to Brad Broders at Regional 1. Any new information for us, Brad?
Richard, we're still kind of waiting on information from Regional 1 in terms of how many victims have been treated, but I just wanted to, you've been doing such a great job, I just wanted to kind of recap a lot of the comments that I'm seeing coming in on Twitter in the last hour. A lot of tweets coming in from City Council members of Memphis City Council. The Memphis Office of Emergency Management tweeting just a few minutes ago, "Our thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by tonight's tragic events." The former Memphis Shelby County School Superintendent Dorsey Hobson tweeting, "Thank you for your hard work over the last few days, Memphis Police. We appreciate your courage and hard work every day, but especially over the last week." And to show you how much statewide and national attention this is getting, Richard, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee tweeting, "My team and I are monitoring the situation in Memphis closely and urge those in the area to follow direction from the Memphis Police Department and other local officials. We are praying for Memphis and all of those affected tonight." And Richard, I just want to highlight what I've already seeing as a hashtag, and I don't think this is going to be the last, from the Memphis Office of Emergency Management tweeting 901 strong. I've seen so many tweets in the last hour from so many Memphians, like Rebecca Butcher. She's a native. She loves her. Our news director, a Memphis native, loves this city. So many people love this city, and this week has really hit us hard. It's hit those who have come to this city and love it. Those who are lived here all their lives. Everyone's been impacted by this in some way across the board. I'm seeing on social media tonight. So while there's sadness and frustration, there's also resolve that these two events in the last week are not what Memphis is about, and that is strongly being encouraged on social media tonight, Richard.
Yeah, maybe a more appropriate hashtag tonight would be 901 hurting, because we are. But you're right, we love this city and we want better for it. You expect that it's going to be some meetings. There may be a protest or two, some more conversation, but it always amazes me. We talk and talk and talk, but there's not usually a lot of serious conversation about what we really need to do to address some of the root causes of the city's crime problem. But no doubt we will cover those meetings and cover those candlelight vigils, and it will go on, unfortunately. I hate to be so cynical about it, but I've been here since 1994, and I've seen what I've seen. Rudy, let's bring you into this. The MPD statement that we're waiting for, typically what happens with this is I guess it's best to say it's not typical, because lately we don't know if they're going to do something, release the information on Facebook. Are they going to put it out through some other social media site? Are they going to have a news we don't ever really know which approach they're going to take. All we know is that they've promised to have some kind of statement that's going to give us some answers to what happened.
Yeah, that's right, Richard. And it oftentimes depends upon where they are in that investigation and how many other people or components or factors go into the work that they're doing at that point in time. We know that we have been watching a lone, or believe we've been watching a lone shooter all this afternoon, but there could be other people involved somehow or another. And that's information that we'll find out in the coming days. And oftentimes as these things become so big, as we unfortunately saw with the Eliza Fletcher situation, there were questions and there were situations that needed to be vetted and looked into as well. So that can oftentimes affect what we get, how they disseminate that information, and oftentimes we feel like it's not soon enough for us, but for the safety or for the good of all, we like to think that law enforcement knows exactly what they're doing in that case for us all. They released information to us in various ways this afternoon or this evening as they went on the search for this gunman. We had conversations with MPD. We watched their social media as well. The biggest part of all of this was to make sure that Memphians, residents of Memphis, were safe and to clear the streets because it was not known where this person might strike next, and puts everybody in a very, very vulnerable situation when you have that sort of thing happening. People in restaurants, people in stores, people going about their lives as we often do. And when this started this afternoon, this was around the rush hour period of time where people are leaving school, rehearsals, leaving work. And as we've talked about just a moment ago, going to church. That's a traditional thing that happens here in the South, and especially here in Memphis, Tennessee. So this is something that took all of us off guard, as it did the general population of the area. When I heard the news here in the newsroom, we often hear about shootings, but not on such a large scale as this. So we take those things and that information that we get into the newsroom with a grain of salt until we learn more is involved. But as we started to get more information in here, we had to hit the ground to figure out exactly what was going on and inform our audiences, people who are watching right now, who may just even be turning on the television to find out what was happening here in Memphis, Tennessee. You're looking right now at a picture of Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old. He is the accused shooter in tonight's spree that we have been following all evening long, not long after we got off of air for our late afternoon or late evening newscast at 6:30. And Richard, you were right back on air with information of this crime that was happening here in the Memphis area. Several areas affected. We know that this started at an AutoZone store in Raleigh, where a shooting took place there on Jackson Avenue in the 4011 Jackson Avenue block. We saw pictures there earlier. Our Jay Shakur was there. I did give a call to the store there, and people were in the store, but they had closed the store by then, of course, since something had happened there, such a crime had happened there. From there, we also saw and got reports of the shootings and incidents that were possibly related to that situation in other parts of the city. So you think about the area of Raleigh, and you think about the area that we're looking at right now, where our crews are, where police say they apprehended Ezekiel Kelly this evening. That's quite a span of area throughout the city. And not knowing exactly which direction that shooter would go in would be something that would make anyone afraid and want to get home and get off the streets and get out of reach of something like this, Richard.
Absolutely. I have to say that when you look at the breadth of the different, the locations and how many, square miles, acres we're talking about here, it's sure there were several parts of town that maybe weren't directly affected, but when you basically stretch from AutoZone Park, where you can't even have a baseball game go on without having to be suspended for sheltering in place, as far east as 240 and Poplar, and then everything in between, it gives you an idea of just how much of an impact all of this had here tonight. We're anxiously waiting for word from the MPD about what Memphis police have learned about this, what they can share about it. We're getting lots of reaction on social media, people wanting to hold on to hope that we've got to rally here. We've got to make sure that we look out for those victims and their families that are having a very difficult night, because that's what matters most right now, for sure. There are larger questions that will no doubt be asked. Whether they'll be answered, I don't know. But the problem is that the focus now is on the situation with the families, reaching out to them, helping them, of course, thanking our police department for their hard work, and then figuring out what exactly was the situation with the main suspect tonight, Ezekiel Kelly, who is now in police custody after a very, very long night for Memphis Police. Rudy mentioning that Memphis Police, not even a full complement at this point, a little less than 2,000 officers, I believe is the last number I had, and they would like to be closer to 2,500 officers to have what they feel they need to start to make an impact on crime. And Yvonne, you know, the 19 years old is the age of Ezekiel Kelly. You know, a lot of the comments made by Police Chief C.J. Davis over recent months since she took the helm was just noticing the juvenile crime problem in particular has really skyrocketed, and not just under 18, but really that soft spot between 16, 17, and 24 years old. That is really where, as she likes to say, 20% of the people committing 80% of the crimes. That's the age group, and this suspect tonight, Ezekiel Kelly, falls right in the middle.
There, Richard, and people are asking the question as we watch all of these things happen. Where are we? Where are we as a society right now as we watch all of these crimes play out in front of us? As we continue to look at these live scenes right now, we've got Yvonne Thomas, who is down in Whitehaven right now. She's at that scene near Lakeview Road in Sedgwick. Yvonne?
Hey, Rudy. Hey, guys. Things have changed quite a bit. Definitely not the same kind of scene that we were witnessing maybe 30, 45 minutes to an hour ago, where there were a lot of officers, a lot of different departments, from Memphis Police to state troopers, even unmarked cars and vehicles were here. Right now, the only MPD vehicle that we can see is just this one right in front of us, with a couple of officers here as well. We did try to speak to them, and they were kind enough to tell us that they don't know how long that they're going to be here at this time. We've also been reaching out to the PIOs, the spokespersons or spokespeople with Memphis Police, to see if they can give us an update on what has happened here tonight, but also if we're going to hear or get a statement from Memphis Police as well about all of the events that have unfolded this evening, not just this location, but the others across the area as well. As of right now, I haven't heard anything myself about whether or not there will be a press conference or a briefing or anything like that. But definitely the scene has calmed down drastically from where this person was apprehended here at this scene. Back to you.
All right, Yvonne, thank you. Talk about when you first got here. I mean, I wondered if you were able to tally how many law enforcement agencies were there. I know we saw some Tennessee state troopers pull out of there. There were those armored cars, two of them, the vehicles that pulled out as you were going live. Have you seen Shelby County Sheriff's Office, any federal agency of any kind?
We did not. We did not. We only saw those state troopers from our vantage point. And remember, this is quite a large scene. Police have told us that, you know, the suspect was apprehended further on down this road. We're about 800 feet from where Ivan and Hodge Road, that intersection is, that was on lockdown, or people were asked to stay inside of their homes. That's about 800 feet away from here. But we, again, we saw Memphis police officers. We saw state troopers as well. No word on ATF or anything of those other agencies that were here, but they could have been, and that maybe from our vantage point we just didn't see them. But definitely that biggest shocker for us here on scene was seeing those armored trucks leave. There were at least two, maybe three of those that left maybe about 30 minutes ago. And again, not much is here left at this crime scene as we resume.
Okay, well, as you stay there, hopefully you'll be able to get a little more information pieced together there, but it looks like things are winding down there pretty quickly, especially compared to the presence that was there earlier this evening when we went live to you and knew that that's where the focus of the investigation was, and where the focus of the manhunt was, more accurately, in trying to find the Ezekiel Kelly, the suspect here, who, as we have told you many times, but just want to reiterate, He is in custody. He has been caught, and he is no longer posing a threat to the city. The shelter in place lifted, bus service resumed, things hopefully returning to some sense of normal. Rudy, what are you hearing as we move here to 10:30?
Yeah, Richard, I wanted to talk with Yvonne if she's still there, because she spoke a little while ago about a gentleman who drove up and was asking if Ezekiel Kelly, or the suspect, had been caught yet. But I was just trying to get a feel of what the rest of the community and the nearby neighborhoods, what those people were saying, or what their reactions were to this evening.
Hey, Rudy, I can still hear you. I hope you guys can hear me as well. Definitely, we had a crowd out here, not just of Memphis police officers or investigators, but the neighborhood came out to just wanted to see what was going on. You could kind of see in the video, if you were with us with our live continuing coverage, that there were vehicles trying to get actually past this crime scene because people live nearby in this area. One gentleman actually stopped Clayton Collier and I, who's with me. He's been behind the camera all night, but stopped us and just said, hey, has this guy been caught? Has he been caught? Because I'm terrified. I've been terrified. And at that point, we were just getting confirmation that, yes, he was in custody. But definitely the community has just been terrified about what exactly has happened here. We actually spoke to another gentleman on the scene and got an interview with him who was actually at this scene, but also at AutoZone as well, who talked about that scene. He was there with members of his church, where he says that a person was shot at that AutoZone. And so he was just terrified. He says he's praying for the city, and because it's just been a hard and heavy week for many of us as the world is watching Memphis and all the events that have unfolded throughout this week. We're going to keep you updated again, definitely not the same scene here at Lakeview and Sedgwick that we did have maybe about 30 minutes ago.
Thank you, Yvonne. And as we watch this scene right now, and as this news spreads across the city and even across the country on national news outlets right now, we do want to remind everybody that that shelter in place warning has been lifted because that suspect has been taken into custody by police. We're waiting to hear more from them on the situation. We're also standing by, as I understand, at some time for a word from the mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. So that is to come, as I'm being told as well. But as we look at the situation and we look at it in chronology of what happened during this week with the unfortunate kidnapping and murder of Eliza Fletcher and other things that have come before then, in our place, in our space, as we come in and do our jobs during the day, we can never tell exactly what will happen, just as you cannot tell out there at home exactly what you'll be watching and what you'll be listening to. So, Richard, I know for you, and getting off the air right at 6:30 and turning around and going right back on with this, this definitely provided a whole nother scenario, a whole nother experience for you.
Absolutely, and you hear about the impact it's having, and that is what we define as breaking news. So you go on the air and you try to inform people the best you can on what you know. And I apologize if some of my tap dancing has been a little rough, but I tell you, it's just important that we try and stay on it, because as soon as we sign off, that's when another detail is going to come in that we need to tell you about. So rather than not interrupt, back and forth, we know when we're in a situation where continuous coverage is called for, and that's what we've been doing tonight. I do understand that we may not have heard from Memphis Police yet, but we are hearing from some elected officials, some other notable newsmakers who have posted their comments about what's going on. We have Senator Marsha Blackburn, who said, my team and I are aware of the situation unfolding across Memphis. Please stay vigilant and follow the guidance of local officials. As she calls out Memphis Police Department, she says, we are praying for all of those impacted. And we also heard from State Senator Ramesh Akbari, my Lord, it's over. Memphis, our city. We are tired. We are exhausted. Amen, Senator. There has been so much loss, too many families grieving. There is so much good in the city that's being overshadowed by evil, so much light being threatened by darkness. Wow, I love that one. Representative Tori Harris, Memphis, while Ezekiel Kelly has been arrested, the tragedy of the victims, Memphis residents, law enforcement establishments, and businesses that were directly or indirectly affected will have a lasting impact from today's events. Any others? Yes, the Memphis Office of Emergency Management. You heard Brad Broders mention this comment earlier. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those affected by tonight's tragic events. #901strong. And here we have Mark Billingsley, County Commissioner from Germantown area, pray for Memphis and our surrounding community. We are all devastated by the loss of lives due to crippling crime and our own safety and well-being. Mark Billingsley, a commissioner who, Rudy, understands that no matter where you live in the city, whether it's a suburban area or the city itself, we are all affected by it. You can't run away from it. You can't feel any kind of illusion of safety, because that's just not the case. I understand you have some more comments to share with us.
Yeah, but I want to add to that as I read these. This sort of thing is happening across the country, and oftentimes people look at Memphis, Tennessee as all these things happen back to back, it seems, but we aren't the only city experiencing this. Atlanta is experiencing things of the same nature. Chicago, Illinois, experiencing the same sorts of things, and possibly it's because of the size of our city, and oftentimes people forget about Memphis, Tennessee until there's something huge that makes the national headlines to remind everybody that we are here. But as Senator Rumesh Akbari so eloquently said in her social media post, there are so many wonderful things that happen here in this city that are often overshadowed by crimes like this and what we've seen earlier this week. Let's get to the rest of those social media posts from other notables. Dorsey Hobson, II, who is the former superintendent, 2 times back of Shelby County Schools. He says, "Thank you for your hard work over the last few days at Memphis Police Department. We appreciate your courage and hard work every day, but especially over the last week." And also Senator Bill Haggerty. He says, "My team and I are monitoring the situation in Memphis closely and urge those in the area to follow direction from Memphis Police Department and other local officials. We're praying for Memphis and all those affected tonight." And Councilman Chase Carlisle releasing a statement, a very lengthy statement. He said, "But my statement on tonight's tragic events, these tragedies must stop." He's also saying that he's praying for everybody affected by tonight's senseless violence. He says he's praying for Memphis. "I understand it feels like so much violence and evil to experience in such a short time. We are so much more than this." I've seen many posts on social of people saying they're out or packing my bags. "I'll never tell anyone how to feel, but I want you to stay." He said, "I want you to stay and I want you to fight. Fight for the Memphis you believe in, the Memphis we want to be. I will be there with you. I love my city. I won't give up on it, and I hope you won't either. Thank you to MPD again for their heroic work, and will more." So there you have it. Several postings, several social media postings from elected officials here in the city, and there are more to come as everyone has been watching this situation unfold this evening on the streets, literally on the streets of Memphis, Tennessee tonight. As I said before, we are waiting to get a word from the mayor of the city very shortly. I have not heard if we will hear anything from Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris this evening, but I do know that we are on tap to get a word from Mayor Jim Strickland at some point this evening as well. Richard?
Yeah, and I'm sure we will hear from him. I'm sure that even if it's not a part of the initial statement, that we will hear from Police Chief Davis, if not tonight, tomorrow. I'm sure there are a number of people we'll hear from the Memphis Shelby County Crime Commission. There's a lot of different elements and tentacles to this that we're going to be exploring in the days and probably weeks ahead. But nonetheless, many of the comments that we're getting from newsmakers, elected officials, what have you, trying to encourage us to keep hope alive, so to speak, and let's not let this get us too down, but realizing that we're clearly not doing what we need to be doing, and some issues that we aren't addressing probably need to be able to address them and not just have another city council person having a town hall meeting and nothing happens. That, I think, is that exasperation is what might have some people saying, "I'm down, I'm packing my bags, I'm out of here." But the bottom line is you can't run away from it, and you got to deal with it, and that's what needs to happen. Hopefully Mayor Strickland will maybe initiate that conversation in a different way when we hear from him. We're waiting, folks. If you're wondering why we're still on the air here, we are hoping that we're going to get that statement from the Memphis police that they said they were going to make tonight, trying to give some explanation on how the events unfolded, the timeline, who was hurt, where exactly did things happen. Those are all pieces that we're trying to put together based on what we're seeing and hearing from eyewitnesses and our reporters on the ground, but we want to have more specific information to bring to you. And then, of course, the actual and eventual apprehension of Zeke Kelly, which was one of the best things I've been able to report out to the viewing public in quite some time, is to let them know that, yes, the person who was creating this terror on the streets was apprehended, and this immediate threat was no longer. So that's where it stands right now. And we, while we have his picture on the screen, I just think it's certainly important to point out again, we've brought it to you at the top of the hour, but we've just learned in that period of time that a arrest warrant was issued for this man earlier today, before the shooting rampage, for another murder. And it just happened, the arrest warrant anyway just happened today. We don't know much, if anything, about the crime itself, but it's certainly pertinent and relevant to everything else that unfolded.
A word from MPD, and wait to find out few casualties or injuries there were from the situation. Memphis needs people who want to be here to help to fight to move Memphis forward. Bottom line. As a resident of Memphis, Tennessee, who not only works here, I have witnessed in people who are from Memphis, Tennessee, people who live here, people who work here and toil every day. They are fighters and they stand up for their city, and they are proud and they ride for their city. And if someone doesn't want to be here, then perhaps they don't need to be here. That's as frank as I'll get about that. But there are so many great people, so many great things here in the city to be involved in, and to be a part of the solution and make it better is the better side of the line, I believe.
Couldn't agree more with you, my friend. And it's just the tendency, I think, is to maybe accept that this is maybe just part of our poverty rate, and we're just going to have more violent crime than a lot of cities, and proportionately we do. Yes, you're right. A lot of cities battling this, and there's been an uptick all over the country, but we do have more than our fair share, and there are a lot of factors that need to be looked at. And I would hope that maybe a week like this, if there's one positive thing that can come from it, is to say, maybe we have become a little too accepting of the situation and need to reevaluate, push the envelope a little bit, look around corners we haven't looked at before, to address in a more concrete way things that are actually going to make a dent, rather than what we have been seeing, and that is a concerning rise, especially when it comes to juvenile crime.
Absolutely, and there's not one solution. There's not one quick fix to all of this, and it won't be quick. This has happened over a long period of time. So it's not something that a magic wand can be waved at to make go away.
Not at all, and we're seeing that it's the effect that that's having on the lives and the hurt that it's causing, and you would hope that that is enough to have people start to take an examination of looking in other directions, looking at places we haven't, under different rocks, trying to come to some kind of just trying something new. And maybe we saw some evidence of that, Rudy, with this last election. Clearly, voters are tired of what the standard that was in place, particularly at the juvenile court office and also with the district attorney's office. We are going to be trying some things new. That's certainly going to happen here in the weeks and months ahead with new people in both positions.
You're absolutely right, Richard. And it's inevitable. We will see something happen. How different and what impact it will make remains to be seen. But we are here to do it, and the people have spoken. So we move forward from here. I'm hearing in my ear now that statement in a press conference, and I'm not quite sure if that's from, was that confirmation from the mayor or from the police department? I was asking if the information or the press conference that we'll be hearing tonight, will that be from the police department, or will that be from the mayor's office? Okay, it's unclear at this moment in time, but there will be more information this evening, but we will continue to get more information going into tomorrow. You can rest assured that will happen. If we are not on air when that information comes out, we're going to hang on here as long as we can. You can always stay up to date at abc24.com and on our app. It's free in the Google and the Apple Store. And I've just press conference from police this evening.
but we don't have a time, do we?
That
Because
we
I
don't
was
have.
really kind of hoping that by 11 o'clock we could wrap things up here. But no, I fully expect that they, are working diligently to make that happen. But as I alluded to earlier, I also know from the hard work that they do that they don't want to have to correct anything. They want to make sure they get it right when they issue it. And so there's a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot in a situation like this when you have multiple scenes, multiple victims, and a troubled, to say the least, suspect with a prior record that we understand does extend to juvenile court as well. So those are all things that they know they're going to be asked, and they want to have the answers. So that's probably what's delaying this and why we're having to wait just a little bit longer. But I imagine they're working very hard to make sure it happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and sooner than later, this ordeal came to an end, and that's what we were hoping for. You never know how long something like this will last, and fortunately for all involved, this has come to a close sooner than later. But you mentioned something just a moment ago too, Richard. You used the word troubled in describing this suspect, and especially with a record now, a clear record that goes back to juvenile court. If we're dealing with someone of this age, 19 years old, holding a city hostage, driving around with a gun without care of harming people. And if all accounts and reports that we've heard that could be connected to this entire situation, blatantly and intentionally harming others, there are issues that need to be addressed, and it is not that quick fix as we talked about, and addressing those issues and looking into where do we start, where do we attack the issues, how do we approach those issues, who do we get involved in doing this, and I'd say everybody within this community is vitally important in moving things forward.
Yes, including the faith community, which I know has started to really respond to a couple of more high-profile crimes that have happened this year, joining forces, saying maybe we need to be more involved than we have been in our community, and trying to do kind of a groundswell effort to make it more grassroots in how we're going to address this. Because honestly, in defense of police, they can't, we can have the 2,500 officers, and I'm sure that will help some, because you'll have more officers that can catch bad guys that run a red light, and then maybe they've got a warrant out for their arrest, and that's kind of the thinking behind it. But the bottom line is they can't be everywhere. There's no way they could have prevented what happened today. So there's only so much they can do. And as Police Chief Davis often says when she does get in front of the cameras, is that this is going to take a community effort. It's just that simple, and it's going to take more than just a couple of nonprofits, a couple of town hall meetings, and them adding 200 or 300 officers to seriously deal with this in a serious way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to go back out to our Rebecca Butcher now, who has been on a couple of scenes this evening and following the story for us. A native Memphian who I'm sure is as concerned about all of this as we have been this evening. So Rebecca, what do you have new for us now?
Yeah, well, Rudy, I can say we did just before you took us, we did see the Regional Forensic Center van leave the scene. We also have seen just moments ago the medical examiner's van leave the scene as well. Now, they were here for a bit of time. Like we reported earlier, a woman was shot and killed. That's confirmed by authorities in this area. We're in the Midtown area, near just at the intersection of Poplar and Arbondale. It's a heavy scene, of course. Memphis is definitely hurting. Emotions are high in this community. I was the first media member here on the scene, and I did speak with an eyewitness, like we've told you. He tells me he did witness this woman get shot. From what he could tell, that victim was wearing what looked like medical scrubs, or was a medical professional. So it's everyday people who are victims of these tough crimes, like we've reported so many times ourselves. And of course, being from Memphis, Rudy, you've been in Memphis so long as well. It's heartbreaking to see us come to a point where people who have always felt safe or have never really had to dart their eyes back and forth or constantly look over their back like so many of us media members have done with the Eliza Fletcher case in that area as investigators work to find her remains. It's devastating to hear from people that they no longer feel as safe as they did. And we've got to get to that point where, we got to get Memphis back. I was speaking with a former county commissioner at the press conference that was held, crime tape that they put up, when I first got here at this intersection. But like you guys have been saying, police are working hard, and we've heard comments from C.J. Davis on the Fletcher case and crime as well, and she's relatively new in her position, and I think what Memphis could really benefit from is not just conversations, but plans that include actual real people. We're doing these stories every day, and the question that I usually end up asking is, well, what do you think is the solution? Of course, that's a multi-layered, multifaceted question. It's a big question, but collecting those different possible solutions and how everyday people can kind of inspire one another to be part of the solution and act and vote and get those elected leaders who are passionate about what they're passionate about, saving lives, keeping Memphis safe, making it a livable, sustainable area like South Memphis, other areas that are seeing abandoned, vacant homes that have become, a haven for more crime, a haven for suspected murderers. So it's a big issue that we've dealt with, but I think once we can kind of get a heart check and kind of get back to, I guess, the will of Memphis, as a former county commissioner was telling me recently this week, I think we can do it.
Rebecca, you said a heart check there, and when this all broke this afternoon, for even me, I had to take a moment and pull myself together. What gives? What else? What next can happen? But this is a city where great things can happen. You're standing in the middle of a very residential area right now, and you got a chance to see a lot of those residents come out out of concern for each other and to see what was going on. Do you feel a sense of relief in that area at this time, even with the unfortunate shooting death of that one person?
Yeah, I can't see people out here. It's still eerie out here. First got here, and just to recap a little bit, because that was in another show on our sister station, CW, where we went over those details. Like that witness I was telling you about who saw the shooting, he said that he saw the aftermath of a 4-vehicle crash, and he said that he saw what police have described as the suspect. He described a white shirt, African-American male, younger, come out of the car, quote unquote, acting like he was hurt, going up to a vehicle. He said that a woman was in her car with what appeared to be her children. She said, "No, you're not hurt, you have a gun." Went to another car, tried the same thing. It appeared to him, this woman who was in scrubs, who has lost her life here tonight in the Midtown area. He said that this witness told me that he pulled her out and shot her. So, these are stories that are hard. And as far as your question of relief, when everything was going on, a lot of people were coming out here, and it was really becoming very apparent of how big this was, this shooting spree. Told them to come to, not be out here if they didn't have to be out here and they weren't working the scene, but go inside, stay safe. So I'm sure that they are relieved in their homes, but no one's out here. Rudy.
Eerie scene still, Rebecca. I want to share right now, just moments ago, I received a communication from Shelby County Commissioner Eddie Jones, and he wants to commend the Memphis Police Department, as he says, on their unwavering honor to protect and serve all of its citizens. He says the violence we have seen over this past week has shown our resilience and unity as a city and as a community. He goes on to say, this tragic trilogy ended close to where my mom lives. Wow. He says, thank you, men and women in blue. My heartfelt condolences go out to the families that have been impacted by this violence. He ends that by saying, love Memphis. He's now the probate court clerk. That's Eddie S. Jones, who served on the county commission before this and has always been very active here in this community, a Memphian who truly loves this city, as you've heard from other elected officials and other people in our community tonight. So you can see the breadth and the span that this ordeal has taken all across the city and on so many people and so many homes tonight, Richard.
Absolutely, and that's raising some questions that we're also seeing on social media. I think they're legitimate questions. How come we can get forced notifications for weather and missing persons, but not for emergency events like tonight's shelter in place? As we heard Brittany Moncrief, our reporter, who was just having dinner at the Saltwater Crab tonight, just a little bit of confusion and some frustration and maybe even a little bit of anger that there was no system in place to get the word out, so to speak, of what the heck was going on, and people were being told that they had a shelter in place, and they're like, what do you mean I got a shelter in place? And so their first recourse, I guess, is to get on their phones, but we do have our phones alert us about lots of other serious situations, and this might be something that we need to look at, is some way of alerting the citizenry when there's when it's time to take caution and take cover, as the case today. I also think about some of the solutions that have been proffered in the last few weeks with some of the other tragedies we've had to deal with. And one group in Raleigh, I remember, was calling on more enforcement, more strict enforcement of the curfew, the Memphis curfew. The laws are on the books. Yet the curfew really isn't enforced very strictly here, and the response that came from Memphis police, well, mom and dad, that's on you. So there's a lot of those kinds of debates that we're going to have to, I think, have some serious conversations about as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And the conversations have happened. We've had lots of conversations. We've had groups who have organized to come up with plans to protect neighborhoods and communities. But the work has to begin, and the work has to start. As we talk about young people, how do we focus on the things that are needed as it deals with mental health, as it deals with programming to inspire and to keep the young people involved, but also build that spirit of community amongst young people, to understand that we're neighbors and we live together, and that as opposed to doing things to harm one another, we should be working with one another to build our community to the best. I always think about the saying that's often read on T-shirts, Memphis versus everybody, meaning that when it comes down to this city, it's nobody but Memphians who can stand up for this city and show the true spirit and goodwill of this community. So, once again, just to recap, if you're joining us late this evening, there was an arrest of Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old. Started early this evening with a rampage of shootings across the city of Memphis, starting in Raleigh at an AutoZone store. One of the first businesses that we learned, I believe, shut down as a result of this ordeal this evening, but it stretched all the way through the downtown Memphis area, Midtown area, affecting University of Memphis, Overton Square, Cooper Young, and finally ending this evening, after we will confirm 4 to 5 locations where people were injured or there were shootings, finally ending this evening in Whitehaven, where our Yvonne Thomas has been and has reported so very well on what she was seeing in that area of Ivan Road and Hodge Road in Whitehaven, where residents were told to shelter in place because at that point in time this evening, around 9 o'clock, 8:30 or 9 o'clock, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly, because so much has happened this evening, they had apprehended that suspect, Ezekiel Kelly. Very disturbing, 19 years old, holding a community hostage with firearms in the city this evening.
Wow, indeed, Rudy. We understand are getting some eyewitness accounts into our newsroom here from people who actually witnessed one of the several crime scenes that we've been telling you about. We believe the first one was this AutoZone store on Jackson, and we're going to hear from a man now who was setting up a tent to help the homeless when he heard gunfire. Let's listen.
We were in the middle of setting up the tents and everything and setting up the food when they heard the shots, and my pastor and some other members, including my pastor's father, went inside, and the man was on the floor. He was a Hispanic man, and they prayed with him. He was bleeding from this area, pretty bad, And then the police came and they told us that we had to leave. But we at first we thought it was like he was trying to rob him or something. But then we found out that this guy was just shooting randomly.
Yeah, I mean, wow, by the grace of God.
You heard Yvonne Thomas say there, but for the grace of God go I, right? Because that's what a lot of us are saying about these crimes. When they're random in nature, most of us can put ourselves in that situation and say, that could have been me. And those are the crimes that are the toughest to hear about, because you absolutely reach out to the family of the poor woman who was in her medical scrubs, had just presumably gotten off work, was dragged out of her car and shot. That's the kind of thing that has people on edge, and is a reason why you're hearing a lot of fear, and you're hearing a lot of concern about where this community is going. What else have we got going on here? We've got, I'm sorry, I'm looking at something else there. So Rudy, I guess as we wait for what's coming up, it is 11 o'clock now. We've been on the air for more than a couple of hours, and what we're waiting for now is to hear some kind of statement from Memphis Police. It's hopefully going to iron out some details here. So if we can, you and me together, and recap, reset, tell people where things are. Let's pause for a moment and we'll reset.
All right.
Watching breaking news coverage here on ABC 24. I'm Richard Ransom along with Rudy Williams, and we're going to break down exactly what we know at this point on what has happened tonight. It's been a very eventful night. That's what happens when you have a rampage shooting going on at several different locations with several different victims. We're going to try and run it down for you. I'll start, Rudy, by telling you about the first shooting that we heard about involving the AutoZone store on Jackson in Raleigh, when we understand from a witness we just heard about in the last hour, who was shot in the abdomen somewhere and was rushed to Regional 1. There you see the location in Raleigh where all of this seemed to have started, and then there were several more locations after that.
And we're still waiting to hear from MPD how many there were. Actually, we know that there were streets shut down all along Poplar, through the Midtown area, the University of Memphis area, Midtown area, Overton Square and Cooper Young were affected by this incident tonight. And lastly, in the last shots that you saw before we took a break just moments ago, in Whitehaven at Hodge and Ivan. We've got new video of the arrest right now. It's something that we were not able to see earlier, but here it is on your screen right now. That shooting suspect in custody by Memphis police. The suspect is Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old. If you can see there, being led across the street from a grassy, woody area by Memphis police. And we also know that state troopers are also involved in this area, as our Yvonne Thomas told us earlier. So I'm sure some of those officers are included there in the video that you're watching right now. But we had heard earlier in the evening, this man, Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old, was apprehended somewhere around 8:30 or 9 o'clock this evening. Correct me if I'm wrong in the control room, but I think that was about the time. We had so much going on at that particular point in time. And every resident in that area, in that neighborhood in Whitehaven, was told to shelter in place because police had identified where that suspect was, and they were in the process of arresting 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly this evening. So once again, Richard, as we were talking about before, we went on the air after our 6 o'clock newscast around 6:30. This had been going on possibly about an hour, maybe even more, around the rush hour time of day when this all started. With this coming to an end before our 10 o'clock hour, about an hour ago. So sooner than later, we all ask the question, how long will this be? But as we're covering these sorts of things and making sure that the community is safe, we came on the air to make sure that residents knew exactly where they should be, and also know that there was, which has been lifted, a shelter-in-place warning for all residents of the Memphis community, because police had no idea where the shooter was going or where this incident would end up.
But it did end in Whitehaven, as we've been showing you the video of the arrest of Ezekiel Kelly, who we might point out we also learned a short time ago, within the last hour or so, already had an arrest warrant issued today for murder 1. After that AutoZone, we know that there was another incident of shots fired near the U of M campus. There's the AutoZone shot. After that, there was an incident, we're not sure of the timing here, of at Patterson and Southern near the U of M area, that there was a shooting at the in the 900 block of East Parkway South. And then the last shooting that we're aware of happened near Poplar and Auburndale in the Evergreen area, in which a eyewitness accounts and what we hear from our reporter Rebecca Butcher on the scene, a woman was shot and killed, her body removed by the medical examiner's office just a short time ago. A rampage in random shootings that affected this entire city. As Rudy mentioned, the city put on shelter at home alert. A baseball game at AutoZone Park was suspended until tomorrow, postponed. People told to go home because of the shelter at home order. People escorted out of restaurants by managers, people choosing to stay in restaurants who had no idea what was going on. Same thing happening at churches around the city. A massive effect on an entire population that was a result of what happened here tonight. Let's go back to Yvonne Thomas, who's been at the scene here where Ezekiel was arrested. She's not far from Neely Road and Rains Road where the arrest took place. Yvonne?
Hey guys, you're absolutely right. We're maybe about 800 feet from Ivan and Hodge, not far from where that arrest took place. We actually got confirmation from MPD officers while they were on the scene that arrest took place further on down this road behind me. You can see there's only one officer still left at this scene, at least of what we can see. But boy, was it a different scene just minutes, 30, 45 minutes ago, even an hour ago. Very, very different scene. We saw Memphis Police Department cars, we saw undercover cop cars, but we also saw large vehicles and tank-like vehicles that were here in this area, and they were here for quite some time from what we could tell, investigating and gathering evidence. To be quite honest with you, I'm not even quite sure how large this scene is here on Sedgwick and Lakeview because the crime scene tape is so far back, and we've seen officers and police vehicles even further back than where we can actually see them. We only knew that they were there because of their lights. But definitely what a devastating day it is for many families here in Memphis and the Mid-South area. Not only did we see investigators out here, but we also saw community members that came outside just to see what was going on, because we're actually not very far from neighborhoods and surrounding areas. Many people were trying to actually drive through the crime scene, just not knowing that this is what police were doing and that it happened so close to their home. We even spoke to a gentleman who was here at this scene who told us, you just heard a sound not too long ago, that he was at that scene at the AutoZone, one of those scenes that many police officers were there as well, and he described seeing someone get shot. He also describes praying for that gentleman. He said he was there with his church and that there were several children nearby in the area, but that he's still standing. He's unarmed or uninjured at this point, but is definitely praying for the city. It's been a hard week, as we've been talking about. Again, just one officer here at this scene that we can see right now. If that changes, we'll of course keep you updated, but for now, I'll send things back over to you.
All right, thank you, Yvonne. We appreciate your hard work out there, and we are waiting, as we mentioned, a word from Memphis Police, trying to summarize everything that happened here tonight, get some official comments about that. But we do know one thing's for sure: it ended right where she was, there in Whitehaven, where the arrest was finally made. Rudy, let me bring you into this conversation. I think that. Or we got Brad Broders? Okay, let's go to Brad Broders, who is live at the Regional 1. Brad, what can you tell us about what you've learned where you are?
Well, Richard and Rudy, just the last couple of minutes ago, there was a heavy law enforcement presence. About 5 minutes ago, they have now left about 5 minutes ago, so no Memphis police currently at Regional 1. As you just mentioned, Richard and Rudy, we're still waiting on if Memphis police will have a press conference tonight, and if so, where. We've got crews across Memphis ready to be in position, including here at Regional 1. If that's where the news conference is or another part of Memphis, we'll be ready to go. Unfortunately, the Regional 1 Medical Center spokesperson could not confirm how many victims have been treated here tonight in direct connection to that active shooter who went on that rampage earlier this evening across Memphis, because this is a trauma hospital. It's a little hard to know exactly what gunshot victim came in specifically because of that active shooter that was across Memphis earlier tonight. So we don't have an exact word on that. I wish we could have passed that along. We have asked, just got word about about 10 minutes ago from Regional 1. Unable to confirm how many victims have been treated here specifically. I'm getting some social media posts, unconfirmed, potentially from family members of victims who have been injured because of that active shooter tonight. But obviously, we are waiting to confirm that, facts, not fear. So we're not going to, mention that on air, but we are getting wind potentially of family members of those injured, affected tonight by this active shooter across the city of Memphis. Richard and Rudy, you've talked about it in the last 30 minutes. Again, Memphis is getting national attention, not for the right reasons, but as you saw that hashtag earlier, 901 strong. 901's hurting tonight, but there's also a sense of being 901 strong. Continue to monitor the latest developments, and if and when there is an update from Memphis Police, we'll bring that to you live at Regional 1 Medical Center. I'm Brad Broders.
Well, thank you, Brad. And the important thing, Rudy, is the bottom line is for this event, this time, the perpetrator is behind bars. And when there were so many people who were concerned and so many people affected, not knowing where this guy was going, at least now we know that is one thing we don't have to worry about tonight.
That's right. You're absolutely right there, Richard. Some things that we do know for sure that you just said a moment ago. Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old, has been arrested in connection with the shooting spree across the city of Memphis. We know that one woman, unfortunately, was shot and killed in the course of this incident. And we do know that the shelter at home or shelter in place warnings have been lifted so that Memphians can go about their lives for the rest of this evening if they're leaving work on the late shift from FedEx or wherever else they may be working, or you're getting ready to go to school and work in the morning with a little bit more safety and hopefully some more information as to what occurred on the streets across the city. Now, I'm going to let you do this because you've done a much better job at this than I have. We do know there are 4 to 5 crime scenes that exist all because of this ordeal this evening. So I'm going to let you cover those starting in Raleigh.
Yeah, there was the Raleigh shooting at the AutoZone. We believe that person was injured and may have been taken to Regional 1 as far as we're aware of right now. Then we get a little less clear. We know that there were 3, possibly 4 more shootings according to Major Karen Rudolph with the Memphis Police Department. We're just not exactly sure the order of which and who may or may not have been hurt, but we do know that after the situation in Raleigh at the AutoZone, that there was a shooting at the 900 block of East Parkway South, then another one near University of Memphis campus at Patterson and Southern, and finally the final one was at Poplar and Auburndale in the Evergreen area. That is going to pretty much wrap up our coverage here for tonight at least. Of course, we are expecting that statement from Memphis Police, and when that happens, we'll have it for you on our morning newscast. But before we go, I just want to give our thoughts and our prayers here at ABC 24 for everyone affected, and that is just about all of you, Memphis. Whether you may have known the victim or may have been a victim or somehow know the suspect, whatever. A lot of people here affected. If you were at a restaurant when this happened, if you were at church when this happened, crime affects all of us. And never have we felt that more, I have to say, than we did tonight. Every last one of us affected by what happened here tonight, and only by one individual. So let's pray for our city, let's pray for each other, and let's hope that we can have the right attitude going forward to try and make some more serious conversations, have more serious discussion about what we got to do something about this. Don't forget that we're going to give you push alerts through our app, abc24.com. You just text the word app to 901-321-7520. You'll get alerts right away as soon as we get more information, and we expect to have more information from police certainly tomorrow morning, and we'll have full coverage throughout the day here on ABC 24. Rudy, that concludes, I guess, a pretty busy and a sad day for us here in Memphis, but I remain hopeful. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. We love Memphis, and our prayers and thoughts are with everybody across the city tonight.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good night, and we'll see you with more coverage as it is warranted.
We are near Whitehaven, that neighborhood. We're going to zoom in a little bit to tell you what we're seeing. As you can see, multiple police crime scenes up here. And this is just one of a few scenes that I've been at. I've been to 3 here on this road. We're here at Horn Lake Road, currently in Shelby Drive. Massive police presence. We have learned that that police officer that was shot earlier today has been rushed to Regional 1 Hospital earlier, and thankfully we can report he or she is in stable condition. Now, like I said, this is just one of several scenes. There's another further south of this road here that I'm on now. There was a car, a SUV, a white SUV, it looked like possibly being towed at one other scene, and they were still working to get crime tape up at another one further south from where I am now, and of that second one I just described. Right now, residents, they are visibly concerned. One woman who is concerned about her child. Her daughter, it seems, she says, goes to school in this area. So a lot of people trying to figure out what's going on. As we gather more details, we'll let you know questions we have specifically on the circumstances that led up to this officer being shot and injured. Thankfully, like we said, in stable condition. But of course, when we learn more, we'll update you. For now, live in the Whitehaven area, I'm Rebecca Butcher.
All right, Rebecca, thank you so much. We'll check back in with you again shortly. Now, we are being told that the officer was taken to Regional 1 Hospital, and for a look at his conditions, we are doing team coverage tonight. And ABC 24's Zaria Oates is in the medical district right now. Zaria, what have you been able to learn there?
Good afternoon, Danielle. Yeah, I'm right here at Regional 1 Trauma Center, where I rode down a few miles of the highway with the officers in transport. Now, there were multiple officers on the scene, and what seemed to be the officer in the back of one of these ambulances coming in here to the trauma center. I'm going to step out of the way. Now, the officer seemed to be in good condition. He seemed to be alert and awake. We do not know for sure his current status. However, we are keeping up to date with that. As we know right now, there have been multiple police officers coming and going and blocking off streets here near the Regional 1 Hospital. Now, we'll keep you up to date as we have more information. Back to you, Danielle.
All right, Zaria, thank you again. Let me go back through what we know so far. The call came in around noon, and an officer has been shot this afternoon in southwest Memphis. There are multiple scenes all around the city. We do have team coverage. We're bringing you this information as we get it. It is still an evolving situation right now. If you take a look at your screen, that is the map where this incident all unfolded. Once again, an MPD task force officer has been shot this afternoon in southwest Memphis. We are still going through the nuts and the bolts, trying to get all this information to you all and trying to make sure that everything is okay and everyone is safe at this time. As we get these updates, we're going to send alerts to your phone through the ABC 24 app. So you can go ahead and download it now. If you don't have it, it's free in the Apple and Google Play Store. But right now, let's take another look at that scene with Rebecca Butcher.
Yeah, since we last spoke to you just now, we have seen a few ATF officers here on the scene. Like I said, people out here are trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But of course, we know that an MPD officer has been shot, and residents have shown some concern. One lady in particular trying to get to her daughter, who is at a school, we believe currently, that's in this area. Now, like we said, we know an MPD officer has been shot at this time. Thankfully, we know that he or she is in stable condition at Regional 1 Hospital. We do have a crew there on that scene gathering details there as we speak. Like I said, it's of course causing a traffic delay as MPD officers, although they have established the scene, still getting all pieces of evidence that they can from this. Once again, questions we have. What led up to this officer shooting? Was it a police traffic stop? Was a warrant being served? These are all questions that we have for Memphis Police Department. I did reach out to a spokesperson. That's Lewis Brownlee. He says that their Dayside crew is gathering details on this. We are also hoping for a press conference on the latest information on this as well. Of course, always a sad situation when an officer is being shot. Right now, we're still trying to determine if shots were fired first, by whom or what party. But for now, reporting live in the Whitehaven area, I'm Rebecca Butcher.
All right, thank you so much, Rebecca. You can see that scene there still very active right now. Multiple blocks have been blocked off. You can see the police tape and multiple police officers on the scene. As Rebecca said, officials haven't said much yet, but ABC 24 has someone waiting there for new information. Brad Broders, we might be going to Brad to see what he has for us there. We're having Brad wants to check back in with Zaria O2 is there at Regional 1 Hospital, where the officers are still coming in to watch everything unfold right now. Zaria, what can you tell us that you're learning right now at Regional 1?
Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress just passed a law to lower the cost of medicine. The Inflation Reduction Act caps the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. That's more savings for us.
Danielle, right now, officers continue coming in up and down the streets, blocking things off, making sure that bystanders are staying away and as far away from the scene as possible. Now, we do know that the Chief Davis will be coming out to speak later. Now, Chief won't be taking any questions, and they did make us agree not to ask any questions. We'll keep you updated. Thanks, Danielle.
All righty, Zaria. So there you have it. Memphis Police Chief going to be speaking to the media shortly. I'm going to just update you just in case you're just now joining us. A MPD task force officer was shot this afternoon. The call came in around 12 o'clock, so just a little bit over an hour and 30 minutes ago. So this is all very fresh information. The information is ever evolving right now. This happened in southwest Memphis. It looks like near the Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove area. Zaria is at Regional 1 right now where the officer was taken. The officer is in stable condition. That's what we know so far. Rebecca Butcher is on the scene. We are coming to you with team coverage at this time. We do not have information on suspects. We don't have information on what led up to this incident either. We are working to unfold all of these pieces. So this is definitely a large situation. Let's check back in with Rebecca Butcher, who is on that active scene right now. Rebecca.
But Danielle, like we've been saying, this is just one of a few scenes here in the southwest Memphis and Whitehaven area. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Like you can see the multiple lines of tape here. Traffic, of course, is a little bit of concern in this area. People trying to figure out what's going on and get to any children who they might have in schools in the area as well before school lets out. What we know, one, an MPD officer has been shot by whom we are not yet certain. That has not been yet released by MPD. Questions we have, what led up to this shooting? Was the warrant being served? Domestic situation? What was the call that MPD got? These are all questions I have asked MPD spokesperson. Still waiting for an update at this hour. We do know, thankfully, that MPD officer, he or she, was taken to Regional 1, rushed to the hospital, thankfully in stable condition, we can report. Now, like I said, this is just one of several scenes that I witnessed in the area. The first one was further south of us in an area. They hadn't yet gotten crime tape up. They were trying to get people kind of to back away, drive along the sidewalk, so none of the scene was compromised. Any bullet shell casings or anything that might have been in that area. Second scene further down south of me now was also at Horn Lake Cove and Horn Lake Road. That one, it looked like a vehicle, a white SUV, was being towed. I did see a person, not sure whether or not they were connected with anyone with this scene or whether they just lived in the area. They were visibly speaking to police behind the tape in that scene. And then again, we bring it to this scene here. This is where we're seeing the most tape and the most massive, biggest police presence here still at this hour. Like I said, we know that MPD officer is in stable condition, but what led up to that shooting earlier today, we're still working to find out. Live in the Whitehaven area, I'm Rebecca Butcher.
All righty, thank you, Rebecca. Remain on standby. We are still getting more details in our studio right now. In fact, we have seen that Jeter K-8 is currently on a precautionary lockdown while the law enforcement investigates this incident. This is in the southwest Memphis area where a MPD task force officer was shot. It is in stable condition right now at Regional 1, but he was shot. He or she was shot. As we get updates, we're going to send you alerts to your phone from the ABC 24 app. This incident happened at noon. It's 1:34 right now, so we are still learning more information. This is also very new information coming into our station and into our studios. We do have team coverage going on right now. Here's what we know. This incident happened at noon today in the southwest Memphis area near Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove. This officer is in stable condition. Right now, you are seeing video from earlier this afternoon where the ambulance was taking that officer to Regional 1 Hospital. Now, we are on top of this right now. Multiple crews are on the scene. As we get information, we don't have information on the suspects yet. We heard that we might be getting some more information on that part of this story, or what led up to this shooting. Zaria Oates, who is at Regional 1, told us that Chief Davis will be giving us a press conference at some point, not allowing media to ask questions, but I'm sure she's just going to be giving us the information that she has so far. Once again, an MPD task force officer was shot this afternoon around noon in the southwest Memphis area. As we get these updates, we're going to send you alerts to your phone through our ABC 24 app. So you can go ahead and download it now. If you don't have it, it's free in the Apple and Google Play Store. But right now, let's take another live look. We're going to go back in with Zaria Oates, who is at Regional 1. She's been following the situation very closely, trying to get us information on that officer's condition. Multiple police officers on the scene there as well. As Rebecca was saying, there's multiple police officers and multiple scenes all around southwest Memphis right now. So this situation seems to be kind of spread out. So our details are also spread out. As we wait for Zaria Oates there, I just want to go back through the nuts and bolts. This incident just happened at noon today, and we do know that one officer was shot. Let's go ahead and check back in with Zaria Oates.
The $6 Your Way deal at Burger King is a triple win. Your choice of a bacon double cheeseburger or a rodeo double cheeseburger. Win. Plus fries? Win. And chicken fries? Win. The all-new $6 Your Way deal. It's a win-win-win. Only at Burger King.
Yeah, Danielle, what we know right now is that alongside Memphis Police Department, many other departments are coming out here, getting informed as the information makes its way across town. Right now, we know we have Tennessee Highway Patrol back behind me, as well as the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Now, it's been kind of a chaotic scene as police officers attempt to block off some of the roads here up and down the street near the hospital alongside the highways. Now, as they continue to patrol the area and make sure that people are staying clear of the scene, we are waiting on Chief Davis to come make a statement. Right now, it seems that Chief Davis is getting out of her car to come make this statement. Now, again, as we said before, Chief Davis will not be taking any questions, so we will try to keep you updated as much as possible. But right now, we do know that we saw someone come out of the ambulance in a stable condition, seemingly alert. Back to you, Danielle.
Everything we know right now. Again, this is just a map of what we know where the incident took place. We're told that one officer was taken to Regional 1 Hospital. We're going to continue team coverage throughout the day on this incident. We have Zaria Oates again in the medical district. Zaria is learning and waiting on a press conference there as we speak, and we will be continuing to talk with her in just a little bit. I was able to reach out to the mayor's office, Mayor Jim Strickland and his office. They are preparing a statement at this time. They said that they are aware of the situation, but they're looking for more information about exactly what happened before they release that statement. Again, we do have team coverage. We're checking in with all of our crews right show. This is video actually right now of crews that were showing up on the scene at Regional 1 Hospital. And again, officials haven't said much about what has happened yet or what actually led up to this shooting, but ABC 24 has someone waiting and standing by for more information. Gita K through 8 right now is on lockdown. That is new information that we have. And we're learning more details about what's going to happen then and some more information that parents need to know when they're going to pick up their children as well. Again, team coverage, Brad Broders is standing by and getting ready for anything and information that we have. We're going to come back to him in just a second. But this, again, is a live look at Horn Lake Cove and Horn Lake Cove Road. That is where the incident took place, where a police officer we know has been shot. Now, we're going to stay on top of the latest details of this shooting. We have updates online at abc24.com and on our ABC 24 app. Again, another live picture right there at that scene. Let's take a live look outside of that hospital where we know a police officer is recovering there in that hospital. Again, we're getting more information as more details come in. An officer is still right now at Regional 1 in stable condition. No information right now on suspects or what led to this shooting. We're learning for those details at this point. Right now, ABC 24 News was told that MPD was taking an officer to that hospital. Rebecca Butcher is there live. Rebecca, can we speak to you? Are you available for a quick live shot? Okay, we don't, Rebecca, but we do have this camera footage. And what we're looking at right now, of course, we're seeing police cars and we're seeing other cars definitely passing through, trying to get through that area. As you can imagine, as police are working this investigation, it's a very, very, very tight space for police to work and grab all the details that they need to pursue and move forward. This is definitely a very live and active scene. You can still see caution tape, crime scene tape all over the place. Police cars, men and women outside of them, officers, learning more details about what happened. They're speaking to each other. I count at least 2 or 3 police cars that are there as well. And just definitely a very big scene. Let's go now back to that hospital where we do know that that officer is recovering at Regional 1. Zaria Oates is there covering everything we know so far right now. Zaria, what can you tell us?
The truck sitting in the middle of the street, next thing I know, my baby came running after school crying.
Now is that a Memphis Police Department task force officer has been taken to Regional 1 here right behind me. He was taken up the highway. He or she was taken up the highway, blocking off many exits, on ramps, off ramps, making sure pedestrians and other drivers stay out of the way as they continue to transport them up this way. Now, many streets were blocked off completely by officers inside their cars and outside their cars, directing traffic, making sure that there was a clear path all the way into Regional 1. Now, if I step out of the way here, you can see that there's many police officers here. There's Memphis Fire Department, the Tennessee Highway Patrol is out here, as well as Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Now, right now, as we do know, is that we're waiting for Chief Davis to come out and give a statement. Chief Davis's communication department did say that they will not be taking any questions from media and did have us agree to not ask any questions. Now, we will keep you updated as we have more information, and we'll continue to give you all of that information. Back to you.
Zaria, thank you so much. And we are waiting for a lot of leaders to give their perspective and their information about what's happened. We have spoken to the mayor's office, Jim Strickland as well, who is aware of this situation, and he is waiting to release a statement to see exactly how this investigation will unfold. But he was able to give us that as well. Also, Jeter K-8 is on lockdown right now. I believe we have a live picture of there as well. Let's take that if we can. But again, we're working to learn more information about that, and especially as parents are preparing to pick up their children later on this evening, what that will look like for you as well. Again, more details are coming in as we speak. What we know right now, though, is that an officer was shot and is at Regional 1 Hospital in stable condition. But right now, no information on a suspect or what actually led up to this shooting. We're working to gather those details. We are standing by. Zaria Oates is for that press conference with the police chief to see what new details she can give us. Also, we are continuing to get those updates. You can stay with us right here, but we're also going to send alerts to your phone through our ABC 24 News app. You can download that if you haven't already. It is free in Google Play and in the App Store. But right now, let's take another live look at the scene. As more details are coming in, we're learning exactly what happened over the past few minutes. Again, this is a live look at Regional 1 Hospital. You can definitely see police cars are still in the area, and that's normal, a precaution that you see police cars in front of a hospital when an officer gets shot for several reasons. Part of that is for safety, and another part of that is to show support. That is their brother or sister in blue. Many of them, I'm sure, worried and concerned about what has happened, and they're there for a couple of reasons. Again, safety for the most important part, but also to show support as well. Again, at that scene at Regional 1 Hospital, we're waiting on a press conference with the police chief to give us more information about what happened today, and Zaria Oates will keep us covered on that in the medical district. Again, I want to walk you through everything that we know so far right now about what's happened. You're taking a look at the scene, many police cars, another live look at that scene. We've been told that an officer was shot. That officer is in Regional 1 in stable condition, and we're still working to learn what happened. Police and other authorities have not given us much information about all of this just yet. but we're working and we're learning. We're still asking questions. And of course, police are still doing their investigation. You can see a lot of them still on this street, and they're working to see exactly what happened and how this can progress moving forward. And of course, how that officer is doing. Again, our last update said that officer is in stable condition at Regional 1, but a lot of things are happening as of right now. I believe Rebecca Butcher is live on the scene. Rebecca, are you able to give us a live look or any information about what you've seen or heard that's new?
Yeah. Yvonne, I can tell you that it's an emotional scene. Parents are frantic at this point, trying to figure out exactly what is going on with their kids. Several have come to this scene, including a student, I believe, as well. They are, of course, concerned about the lockdown that we reported going on at Jeter School that's near in this area. One person saying she got a text message from her niece, scared because there was a lockdown going on at school. They were concerned, obviously, if there was a danger to their students there, to their classroom, if any shooter was in the area that might harm the children. Let me show you what's going on at this scene and what we do know affirmatively at this point. We know an MPD officer has been shot and killed in this area. Right now we are at Shelby Drive and Horn Lake Road. It's a massive police presence, but just one of three in the area. The other two are further south of me. I've been to all three. What we know is that that officer, he or she, was taken to Regional 1, thankfully is in stable condition. We've also learned that there is going to be a briefing, a press briefing at the hospital. From Chief Davis herself on what led up to this shooting. Hopefully we're trying to learn, and what were the circumstances, if there is anyone detained or charged at this point with shooting that officer, him or her. Like I said, this is just one of three scenes in the area. I've been to all three. I've been talking to guardians. They're frantic, parents, they're frantic, trying to figure out what's going on, making sure their little ones are okay. But back to you.
Thank you so much, and definitely a frantic scene as people are working to figure out exactly what has happened. Again, like Rebecca said, there are several different scenes that officers are, and we're working to learn how all of those scenes are connected as well. One of those scenes is Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove. Also, we do know that that officer at Regional 1 Hospital, and we're, of course, looking for more information about a suspect. Who caused this? Who is the shooter? Police have not released that information yet, but that's one of the details that we're looking for right now. All right, we're going to send things out to Regional 1 Hospital, where Zaria Oates is out there live waiting on a press conference from the chief. Zaria, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Yvonne. Yeah, we thought we saw the chief come out of her car, but it seems that she's still inside waiting to come out and give this press conference. What we know right now is that that Memphis Police Department officer was transported here to Regional 1 Trauma Center. Now, as they were coming into this area, there were streets blocked off, many cop cars coming down, blocking off roads, regular roads, on-ramps and off-ramps, making sure that people and bystanders stayed out of the way. Now, cops continue to come down this road with their lights on and off, stopping traffic, making sure that people stay out of the way. Now, as we continue to wait on Chief Davis, we were told that questions were not allowed at this press conference, but we will keep you updated and we will try to get as much information out of Chief Davis as possible. That's all for now. Thank you, Yvonne.
Zaria, thank you so much for keeping us up to date live outside in the medical district. All right, we're going to break down everything that we know so far right now about this incident. Again, a lot going on right now. There are three different scenes. We have crews at every single one of them. But what we know is that this all unfolded around noon this afternoon. One of those scenes is at Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove. We have been told that an officer is at Regional 1 Hospital. Police are looking for more details and have not yet told us much information about what led up to that shooting. We also don't know if there is a gunman on the loose, if there is a gunman in custody. We're working to learn those information and those details right now. These are the three things that you need to know. A task force officer of the Memphis Police Department has been shot. He was taken to the hospital, Regional 1, and Jeter K through 8 is on lockdown at this point. We're going to give you more information about that as parents work to pick up their children in the minutes and hours to come. This is a live look at Horn Lake Cove Road and Horn Lake Cove Lake. Okay. All right, we're still gathering information. A lot is going on right now. Again, we have many crews out there learning to know what's going on. We're going to stand by. Brad Broders is live with more coverage with us right now. Let's go to him.
Yeah, good evening. I'm at the Corn Lake near Shelby Drive. I'm going to step out of the shot. Elvis, if you don't mind going in on that, right there is Jeter K through 8, that school that you had just mentioned right now. They are in lockdown, as you just mentioned. You can see a lot of police cars surrounding this crime scene, which just so happens to be right near the K through 8 Jeter School. We are here on Horn Lake approaching Shelby Drive. You can see dozens of police officers. This is still a very active scene, a lot of flashing lights following that officer being shot earlier this afternoon. Again, this is not only just a crime scene, we are right in a school zone at Jeter K through 8, which not only is in session right now, but in lockdown. And as you can see, not just only in lockdown, you can see plenty of police vehicles, law enforcement personnel surrounding this K through 8 school. We have been on the scene about 5 to 10 minutes. You can see some officers on the property of this school patrolling the situation right now. But we have not seen any parents arrive near this scene. A lot of the traffic is blocked off on Horn Lake Road, but we're going to continue to monitor this, as you can see. But as you can see, Horn Lake near Shelby Drive, this stretch of Horn Lake is closed off of 61. We'll continue to keep you posted.
Brad, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. This is now a live look where our Rebecca Butcher is right now. You can still see a lot of police still in that area, lots of caution tape. Many of them are standing around speaking to each other and just trying to, I'm sure, take it all in and also do their investigation. You have to remember, too, these men and women are brothers and sisters in blue. Let's not forget that this is definitely a very hard day for them as well, to know that an officer has been shot, and hopefully that person will be okay. We'll also have a live look also where Zaria Oates is in the medical district. She is at that hospital at Regional 1. Right now, we are still waiting on that press conference from Police Chief Davis to see exactly what information she can give us about what has happened there. A lot of police still there in that area as well. All right, let's go now back to Rebecca Butcher at that live scene. Rebecca, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Yvonne, I can tell you it's a frantic scene here. I've got parents and guardians, aunts and uncles, just a few minutes, or just a few feet rather, in front of us behind the camera, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Jeter. They want to know if their babies are okay. They have been placed on a lockdown. They have not heard from Memphis Shelby County Schools, I'm being told. We will also be reaching out to them if our team back at the station already has an about if a shooter is still not been apprehended, or if if that lockdown will be lifted in the hour or so to come. Now, what we do know here at this scene is that an officer, like we said, have been shot. So emotional day, like you said, Yvonne, for our brothers and sisters in blue. What we know is that this shooting happened earlier today, and what we want to know is exactly what led up to this shooting. What were the circumstances surrounding that? Our reporter Zaria is a Regional 1 waiting on Chief C.J. Davis to address media in a briefing on what exactly led up to this, the most recent condition of the officer shot, and if a suspect has been apprehended, detained, charged, or what will be the next steps in this incident. Now, it seems like things are snowballing, one thing leading to another in this situation. First, we got 3 scenes here. One further south, a second at Horn Lake Road, Horn Lake Cove, where I believe our Brad Broders is, who you just heard from, and also this one, which is a bigger police presence in this southwest Memphis and Whitehaven area. Of course, as we learn more, as we gather details, we'll update you. Back to you, Yvonne.
Right now, and go straight to that press conference at Regional 1.
There's a male black in a silver Infiniti, the QX40, dark tinted windows, chrome factory rims, chrome license plate, Tennessee 2X45F8. Right now the suspect's not in custody. We don't have all the details surrounding the situation. We only know that we do have an officer that has been shot. During this incident, we also had another officer that was trying to assist. He was involved in a crash when somebody struck his car. He was transported. He's in non-critical condition at this point.
And so just so we're clear, Chief Davis will come out and speak to us as well.
So,
the next of kin has been contacted. They know what's going on.
Yes.
Were any other officers involved in this incident? Were any other officers on the scene when this officer was shot?
I don't know. We don't know all the details. We don't know exactly what's going on. We do know that the officer was in the area supposedly on a investigation. Don't have the details on that yet either, but we'll update you once we get the information.
And we're saying black male, so we're looking for one suspect.
At this point, yes, one suspect. That's all the information.
Have both families been made aware?
I don't know exactly. I do know that family members have been contacted.
So the officer is speaking.
I don't know.
Do you know the nature of the suspect that you're looking for?
I'm sorry?
You know the nature of the suspect? Were they looking for this person?
No, we do not know. We only know the preliminary information right now that we have an officer that has been shot.
Where you know where he was shot? Body-wise?
Oh, no.
Any description of what the suspect might have been wearing that can help the public?
No, I don't have any additional information. So what we'll do is we'll update you guys as we receive additional information. But at this point, this is all we have. Thank you.
One more question. The car accident, how close to the actual scene did the car accident happen?
I don't know. I didn't make that scene. I think it was in the area because he was coming to assist the other officer.
And I know it's early in the investigation. Was the officer able to return fire? Do we know any of that?
No, at this point, it does not appear that any officer fired their weapon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you were just listening in live on a press conference. We were expecting Chief Davis. That was not Chief Davis, but an officer that was giving us an update. Let me get you everything that we know so far right now. We do know, again, that an MPD officer was shot. The officer was in the area on investigation. That is all that they've been able to give us right now. Not quite sure what that investigation was, but that's why that officer was there. Chief Davis right now, she says, is with the family of that officer. We do know at this time that police and investigators are looking for one shooter. They believe that person is a black male, but that's the only detail they were able to give us with that as well. Also, we're learning more details about, they were describing a car, a silver Infiniti with a Tennessee license plate that read 2X45F8. Again, no person is in custody, and again, they're looking for one person, one shooter. Again, an officer struck. An MPD officer was shot. That officer was in an area on investigation. That's all the details they know so far about what led up to the shooting. Also, Chief Davis is speaking with families. Again, they are looking for one shooter. We're staying on top of everything we know right now. And as we've been describing and explaining, there are several different scenes that are happening right now. Let's take a live picture at one of them and give you an update about what's going on. We're trying our best to stay on top of all of this information, but it's fluid. This right here is Regional 1 Hospital, where that officer is recovering. We weren't able to get much of an update about where this officer was shot, who this officer is, but all of those things will come out surely in the next few hours, maybe even weeks or days. But again, a lot of police officers still at that scene in Regional 1, keeping an update with that. Here's another live scene as well, where of course we've gotten reports of a police officer has been shot. There's also been, all right, we're gonna see if Brad Broders is available to give us an update. I believe he's at Jeter K-8. Brad, can you give us everything you know right now?
Yeah, I am. I'm right near Jeter K-8 school right now. I'm at Horn Lake as it's approaching Shelby off Highway 61. I want to take a step away. In just the last couple of minutes since I was last on air, the Memphis Police Mobile Command Center has shown up. Now, this road is not for through traffic right now, so any parent who's trying to pick up their child from Jeter K-8 school between Highway 61 and Shelby Drive, that part of Horn Lake is closed right now. And Elvis, if you don't mind panning over right now to Jeter K-8 school right now, I just want to give you a sense of this is on the intersection of Horn Lake and Shelby Drive. You can see not only is Jeter K-8 school reportedly still on lockdown, not only is the school on lockdown, there is plenty of law enforcement personnel that is on the property of this school. They've been here since as long as we've been on the scene for about 20 minutes, so we're going to continue to monitor this. The Mobile Command Center of the Memphis Police has also shown up. You can see this is still, as they're looking for that suspect involved in the shooting, shooting. You can see this is a very active crime scene right now. Plenty of law enforcement at the intersection of Horn Lake and Shelby Drive. And in the middle of this crime scene is a K-8 school that was in the middle of their school day when this incident came down. So we're going to try to see if when and if any parents can arrive to pick up their children at K-8 whenever this section of Horn Lake will be open again. We're still waiting to learn how long this stretch of Horn Lake will be closed. But again, it is the stretch of Horn Lake between Highway 61 and Shelby Drive. Right now, police are making them turn around. They did allow members of the media, but we are not allowed, obviously, through Shell Prime. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation right now as Jeter K-8 school remains on lockdown. Live in Southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Brad, thank you so much for that update, especially good information to know as parents get ready for dismissal and to pick up their children. Once again, we are staying on top of the latest details of this shooting. We have an update online at ABC24 and in our app as well. Let's talk about everything that we know so far. We had just actually wrapped up a few moments ago a press conference with an officer outside of Regional 1 Hospital. We were expecting to hear from the chief, but the chief is actually with families at this time. Everything that we know so far is that one MPD task force officer was shot. That officer was in an area on an investigation. That's all that we were able to find out from that officer that spoke with us. That officer was shot, but there was also a crash that was involved where another officer was there as well. But that second officer is expected to be okay also. Let's talk about this car that they're looking for. Police have described this silver Infiniti. They've given us a Tennessee license plate of 2X45F8 is that license plate that they're looking for. Right now, there is no one in custody. They're looking for, they say, a black male. And that's all the information that they've been able to give us about who this alleged shooter is as well. A large scope of this investigation. We're talking at least 3 different scenes and learning more details about each and every one of them. But again, ABC24 is told that an MPD task force officer was shot. Rebecca Butcher is actually there at one of those scenes right now. Rebecca, what have you learned?
Up.
Levon, I can tell you this is the biggest scene, one of 3 that I've been at all this afternoon since I've gotten to Southwest Memphis in the Whitehaven area. What we do know, like Yvonne, like we've been reporting for the last hour at least, an MPD officer has been shot. He or she was taken to Regional 1 Hospital, is in stable condition right now. Like you said, we were hoping to hear from Chief C.J. Davis, like we've learned that she is with the family right now, comforting them, I am sure, since that person had been injured. What we still want to know is more on what led up to this shooting. Like the officer briefed media just a few moments ago, was that the officer was in the area for an investigation. What type of investigation, we're not sure if a warrant was being served or what were the details there that led up to that officer unfortunately being shot. What we do know is the shooter is still on the loose, a major concern for parents. I know Brad is at Jeter, but parents, aunts, and guardians have come to this area, this scene, trying to get information from police and us, the media, about if their kids are okay. Like we reported earlier, an aunt was frantic. It has been a little bit of a chaotic scene here with them trying to figure out information. She got a text from her niece saying that her school was on lockdown. Of course, they were concerned if that shooter was near that scene. Up to the last time I talked to her, she still hadn't heard from MSCS, so we're reaching out to the district to see what the next step is for those students, those kids at Jeter. Going to step out the way a little bit so you can see what's still going on. This scene is still up, has been for quite some time now as they work to still gather pieces of evidence from this scene. They have kept people off. Right now we're at Armstrong Road and Horn Lake Road, but the main part of that scene down there is further down. Now we do know that we've seen ATF officers, people in the area, big law enforcement presence here. We're still waiting to learn if we have more information on this shooter that has still not been apprehended. The only thing we know is that it is a male, an African-American male. Of course, we do want to get more details on what that person was wearing, key details to identify this person so they can quickly get this person apprehended. Like I said, parents are concerned. They want to make sure that their kids are okay. Like I said, if you have any information about a shooter or saw maybe anyone fleeing from this area, please let police know. Of course, that number is always the same, 901-528-CASH. Like I said, they're still trying to find that shooter. A car that has been described to us is a silver Infiniti, and we'll show you those plates again. But if you have any information, reach out to police. We'll still be here gathering all that we can. Back to you, Yvonne.
Rebecca, thank you so much. But before we let you go, I do want to ask you a question. Again, you've been mentioning you've been at 1, 2, 3 different scenes already today. This one that you're at right now, you say is the largest. Can you give us the scope of how large this actually is? Can you see where investigators start and end at this point?
Yeah, Yvonne. Well, we can zoom in a little bit here. We do know that Horn Lake Road and Shelby Drive, so kind of a main area here in the Whitehaven community. I just live just a few blocks further down north of this area. It looks like it's that main intersection. We have seen some pictures on the other side of this. From what we know, it does not go past that Horn Lake and Shelby Drive intersection. Looks like we have Memphis police larger investigation van coming in. Usually that's a sign that they're going to be here for quite some more time. So it looks like this doesn't span past the Shelby Drive intersection, large intersection, and that's the command center we're seeing coming in. So it looks like they're going to be here for a while. We did learn that there was a crash involved in all this. The fallout, like we said, things have been snowballing since that officer was shot, and we did hear that there was a crash. We're still just making sure that no one was hurt, whether it be the officer or the person that they crashed into. From witnesses here on the scene, we heard that it was a black car that crashed possibly in that intersection. So we're still working to confirm those details. Yvonne?
Rebecca, thank you so much. We appreciate that update. And again, like she said, that command center coming in, it looks like they're going to be at that scene for quite some time, trying to figure out everything that happened. Let's break down everything that we know so far right now. We know that this all unfolded around noon this afternoon. An officer has been struck. That officer is with MPD's task force. We've been told that that officer was transported to Regional 1. That officer is in critical but stable condition at this time. Now, we've been told by an officer that was on scene at Regional 1 Hospital, who was able to give us an update at least 15, 20 minutes ago, that the officer was in the area on investigation. There was another officer as well that was involved in a crash. That second officer is going to be okay. But again, Chief Davis is with families at this time, speaking with them, trying to comfort them. I'm sure this is a brother or a sister in blue, a very devastating and hard day for them. Another thing that you should be aware of at this time is that police mentioned that they're looking for a car, specifically an Infiniti with a Tennessee license plate 2X45F8. Again, that's an Infiniti QX40 that they're looking for right now. And of course, we're keeping you updated. Again, this is a very, very complex investigation from our standpoint, because there's several different scenes, and we're working just to piece all of this together and give you the latest and most accurate information. We have crews spread out all across those 3 different scenes that we've been talking to you about right now. We're going to give you a live look with a lot of our crews as we're learning more details about that as well. Let's see, we've been speaking with Rebecca Butcher a lot, but let's now go to Brad Broders. We've been also told, Brad, that Jeter K-8, that lockdown has been lifted.
Has been lifted, but here's the problem right now. This stretch of Horn Lake between Highway 61 and Shelby Drive behind me at this point remains closed. They are rerouting traffic. They let the media in a little past where they are, but they don't let us any further, obviously, than this at Shelby Drive. We're on Horn Lake approaching Shelby Drive. Jeter is right to the right of that school right now. So while that lockdown has been lifted, if any parent is trying to come down Horn Lake towards Shelby to pick up their child, right right now, this stretch of Horn Lake is closed. We're waiting on word on when this stretch might be reopened. The problem is, I'm going to step out of the shot right now. You can still see this is a very active crime scene. There's plenty of police cruisers, not only down Horn Lake, across Shelby Drive. There's also first responders that are on the actual property of Jeter K-8 school. So although MSCS has announced that that lockdown has been lifted in the past couple of minutes, it's unclear when any parent may be able to come to Horn Lake and Shelby Drive to pick up their child or children, because this school remains in the middle of a crime scene. So while that lockdown has been lifted at Jeter K-8 school, this area still remains a very involved situation and investigation with plenty of police cruisers. The Memphis Police Mobile Command Center just a couple of minutes ago came down Horn Lake, across Shelby Drive, into more of the teeth of this active investigation site. So we're going to be on this side of this crime scene. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of multiple pieces in this investigation. We're hoping when parents are allowed to come pick up their children at Jeter K-8 school, we're hoping to speak with some of those parents as this fluid situation continues throughout the afternoon. We will continue to keep you monitored. Live in Southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Brad, we appreciate that update. And just before you go, I did want to ask you as well, of course, safety and security is on top of every single parent's mind right now when they hear about an officer being shot and that being so close to their school. Have you seen parents trying to get to the scene to get their kids?
I'm not sure exactly if they were parents, but you can hear we're just a short distance away up the hill there at Horn Lake from where parents are being rerouted. I've been hearing a couple of people seem to get kind of vocal. I'm not sure if that's a parent concerned about trying to get through and get to this school, which if you can see that police car that's flashing behind me kind of through that bush, that's essentially the outskirts of the Jeter school property. So parents presumably are trying to get in right now. Again, though, the problem is we don't know when this stretch of Horn Lake will reopen. You can see it's not just Horn Lake up through Shelby Drive, but both sides of Shelby Drive through this stretch across Horn Lake are also closed. This is obviously an important intersection in this section of the city of Memphis, but right now no one is allowed, much less any parents of Jeter K-8 students. So we will continue to monitor, and as soon as we see any activity, any opening of the street, we will continue to keep you posted as soon as that happens. Live in Southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Brad, thank you very much. And for all the parents out there, as hard as it is, hang tight and know that your babies will be okay. And we're going to keep you updated as soon as you can go and get them from school. Let's go now to Zaria Oates, who is live at Regional 1 Hospital in the medical district. Zaria, we just got that press conference minutes ago from an officer. What can you tell us?
Yes, Yvonne, we're still out here outside of Regional 1 Trauma Center where the officer was transported. Now, we expected to hear from Chief Davis as the communications people came out earlier and informed us that Chief Davis would be out here to give a press conference, taking no questions. However, the department's Karen Rudolph came and answered some questions, gave us an update on the families, saying that Chief Davis was inside of the hospital with the family that is there. Now, Karen Rudolph did say that she's not sure if all the families have been notified. As we do know, there are two officers. One officer, the first one who was shot, is stable but in critical condition. The second officer is in non-critical condition. Now let's hear a little bit from that presser from earlier.
We received information around 12:45 this afternoon from one of our officers advising that he had been shot. He was transported to the hospital in critical condition. Now he's stable. The suspect that was responsible for the shooting is described as a male black in a silver Infiniti, a QX40, dark tinted windows, chrome factory rims, chrome license plate, Tennessee 2X45F8. Right now the suspect's not in custody. We don't have all the details surrounding the situation. We only know that we do have an officer that has been shot. During this incident, we also had another officer that was trying to assist. He was involved in a crash when somebody struck his car. He was transported. He's in non-critical condition at this point.
as Karen Rudolph did say, that license plate number is 2X45F8. Now, we are looking for a silver Infiniti. If you do have any information, make sure you contact the police department. We will keep you updated here as we get more information. Again, those officers are both stable, the first one being in critical condition but stable, and the second one being in non-critical condition. Back to you.
Zaria, thank you so much for that update. We do want to ask you a few questions as well. The police presence in front of the hospital, is that growing or has it stayed about the same since you've been there?
Yeah, Yvonne, it seems like there's been kind of some scarcity among the police right now. There were a lot of police officers lining the street here, maybe leaving 2 or 3 spots for other people to come in and park. Now those police officers are exiting the scene and at the very least turning off their lights and, you know, moving to a different parking spot to where they're not taking up some space from right in front of Regional 1. Since the officer was taken here, we haven't seen any other ambulance enter the trauma area. We're not sure if there's a specific reason for that, but there hasn't been another ambulance outside of the one that was carrying the officer enter the trauma center.
Zaria, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Let's walk you through everything we know so far in case you're just joining us here on ABC 24. What we do know is that an MPD officer has been shot. That officer, like Zaria mentioned, is recovering at Regional 1 Hospital. That officer is in critical but stable condition. We've been told by Officer Rudolph in front of Regional 1 that officer that was shot was in an area on investigation. We don't have any details about exactly what that investigation entailed, but that's why that person was there. We were also told that another officer was trying to assist the first one, but the second officer actually got into a wreck. That person was hurt but should be okay. And again, police have been telling us that they are actually looking for the alleged gunman, the shooter, the suspect. We've been told that that person was in a silver Infiniti. That license plate that they're looking for, it's a Tennessee plate. It is 2X45F8. Again, that is a Tennessee license plate that they're looking for as well. Let's go now to Rebecca Butcher, who is live at one of 3 scenes that we've been working this evening. Rebecca, what can you tell us?
Well, Yvonne, like I said, it's 3 scenes here. This one is the biggest one, but I've been at all 3 today. This is what we know so far up to this hour. MPD officer shot, by whom we're still not clear. The only suspect description that we have is a black male. We're working to figure out what they might have been wearing, dark or light clothing, hat, no hat, those type of things, what type of shoes. Also, we do know that that shooter is still on the loose. If you have any information, we want you to dial 901-528-CASH so they can apprehend that person. Now, we know at this time that Jeter, we believe that lockdown, like we reported, has been lifted. Spoke to a couple of guardians and aunts and a parent out here today. They were concerned, hadn't heard yet anything from MSCS up until that hour on what was going on with their babies inside of that school, Jeter K-8 school that's also in this area. Now, this is the biggest scene. Like we said, I'm going to step out of the way and show you what we got going on here. This is at Horn Lake Road and Shelby Drive, actually very near, close where I live. This happened while I was on my way to another story today. What we know is that we've seen the Memphis Police Command Center come in. That happened during my last live shot just about, and what we know is that means they're going to be here for a little bit. They're still gathering as much information as we can. This is a little bit of a twofold scene, we believe, here at this biggest scene. The officer was shot in this area, but also there was a crash that happened in this area with another officer trying to assist. That lines up with what we've heard from witnesses here on the scene. We know that that person who was in the vehicle, the citizen, has been taken, rushed to the hospital, and also the officer who was involved in that crash while trying to assist the officer who was shot had been taken to the hospital as well. We believe they're expected to be okay. Now, at this time, we know that that officer who was shot by a citizen is in stable but critical condition. So what that means is right now they're okay. Life signs are all right, but they're still monitoring them. There's still a chance that things could go just a little bit wrong. So they're monitoring that person. We know that Chief C.J. Davis, she has been speaking, comforting the family as well. We did hear from Karen Rudolph. She is the top spokesperson for MPD, one of the top, and we learned from her that this resulted as an officer was out on an investigation of some type. We're still trying to figure out if there was a warrant or if there was another scene that officer was responding to, whether it was domestic in nature or exactly what were the circumstances that led up to this officer being shot. Like we said, the shooter still on the loose. If you have any information, please call Memphis Police 901-528-CASH. Yvonne?
Rebecca, thank you. We also want to talk to you just a little bit. Again, this is one of the largest scenes that you've described, and you've been at several different ones this afternoon. Rebecca, can you show us and can you tell us how police presence has changed, if any? That scene still looks extremely active, especially with that command post coming in.
Yes. Yes, like we said, this is the biggest scene in this Whitehaven, Southwest Memphis area that we've seen. Right now I'm at Horn Lake Road and Armstrong Road, and it kind of spans back to Horn Lake Road and also Shelby Drive. So we haven't seen much change here. We still see a lot of officers here, and we've also, like I said, seen this command center come in. So that's a big sign that they're going to be posted up here as they gather details. Like we said, they're working a couple of different angles here. So it might be a case where they've got to remain here at this scene until the other scenes are wrapped up as they try to connect the dots of the timeline, if they haven't already connected those dots. I'm assuming they have on exactly what led up to what at each scene. If this is where the suspect fled, or if this is where, you know, that crash happened where that officer was trying to assist with the officer who was shot and injured. So not much has changed here. Like we reported earlier, there were a few ATF law enforcement as well, but we've seen them still gathering details at this hour.
Absolutely, Rebecca. And then I see actually a lot of cars just trying to pass and bypass that area as crews do their work because it is shut down for so long.
Absolutely, yeah. They have been redirecting traffic this way, making sure people are still flowing. Of course, you know, people are going to stop and have questions about if things are safe, are their kids safe, that type of thing. And we do not, like I said, that lockdown had been lifted, but traffic is being rerouted back up this way, most likely to 3rd and other nearby roads to where these people can get to where they're going.
Rebecca, thank you so much. And again, you can stay on top of the latest details right here with us on air, but you can also do that with our ABC 24 News app. We're going to send you push alerts throughout the day as we get more information. So if you don't have it, download it now. It is free in the App Store and in Google Play. But right now, let's take another live look at that scene. And let's speak with Brad Broders, who is live outside of Jeter K-8 as that lockdown has been lifted. But right now, parents still unable to get to the area to get to their kids. Brad.
Yeah, Yvonne, since the last live hit, I moved a little closer to the school. I'm going to take a step away just to give you a sense. Although the lockdown has been lifted, as you just mentioned, take a look at this. This is on the campus of Jeter K-8 school. There are multiple law enforcement vehicles that remain on the site despite that lockdown being lifted. I'm not seeing really anyone leaving this school, and the problem is, Yvonne, that right now parents are not able to get to this school because two major thoroughfares in this section of Memphis, Shelby Drive and Horn Lake, remain closed for traffic as this investigation continues behind me. So we are waiting on any word on when traffic can again move through this stretch of Horn Lake as well as that stretch of Shelby Drive behind me. Right now, this is the middle of this active investigation. Parents are not allowed to come in and pick up their children. And this school, you oftentimes hear of lockdowns being lifted, and maybe it was because of an incident that happened a quarter of a mile away, a half a mile away. But this is unique for these kind of situations that I've covered in the past, because right now, even though that lockdown has been lifted, we're not seeing any foot traffic, we're not seeing any parents arrive, we're not seeing any children leave, and we're still seeing a lot of law enforcement vehicles on this property of Jeter K-8 school, which is at the intersection of Horn Lake and Shelby Drive, just yards from where this active investigation continues behind me. We're waiting on any potential break in the action or when traffic might kind of start flowing through here again, but right now they're rerouting folks on Shelby Drive as well as Horn Lake Drive. For the time being, we're hopeful that this will be lifted soon so parents can come and pick up their children, maybe even before dismissal. I'm sure there's a lot of concerned parents knowing how close this scene is to this K-8 school. We're going to continue to keep you monitored, but for now, again, Horn Lake and Shelby Drive, this section in southwest Memphis, remains closed for through traffic because it's in the middle of this investigation after that Memphis police officer shot just a short while ago or earlier this afternoon. So we're going to continue to keep you monitored. For now, live in southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Hey, Brad, another thing before you go, definitely, I can only imagine how parents are feeling right now who have kids at that school, knowing how close that school is to that shooting and that incident that took place around noon this afternoon. What may be a sign of comfort could be that there is so much police presence at that school, making sure that safety and security is among the top priority for parents and for those kids.
Certainly, that's exactly right, Yvonne. That's the observation that I'm making right now. Elvis, if you don't mind just kind of painting, I'll just give you a sense of perspective here. I mean, this is the side of Jeter K-8 school, but you can see just cruisers of Memphis police, marked vehicles, unmarked vehicles, continuing to be by the side door right here on the side of this campus here at Horn Lake and Shelby Drive. So you're absolutely right, Yvonne. I mean, this is certainly the lockdown may have been lifted, but again, we're not seeing any foot traffic. I mean, school hours are still in place, obviously, right now, but we're not seeing anyone leaving. We're not seeing any parents able to come to this area to pick up their children if they were just concerned and wanted to come and pick up their child earlier. So our eyes are all over this intersection. We're waiting for kind of a break in this traffic to reopen, but right now it remains closed. Just another sign of how many multiple scenes there are in this area after this officer was shot earlier this afternoon. It's with that suspect reportedly still not being found yet. There's still an active situation across the city. I mean, even about 20 minutes ago, Yvonne, we saw 2 police cruisers just really going down fast on Horn Lake. So, you know, it just shows you the active sense of this investigation. I'm hearing sirens in the distance right now to kind of highlight that point. So we're continuing to be kind of on this section of this active scene, and we'll continue to monitor, and any new developments and new observations that I see, I'll make sure to pass that along. Live in Southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Brad, thank you. Just one last question for you before we let you go. Wanted to hear, I know you're working the scene and trying to gather information. Have you heard anything from the school district, anything else or anything new at this time?
At 1:57, our team, my teammate alerted me that the lockdown had been lifted. So what are we at now? That's about more than 20 minutes since then. I've not heard any additional email from the district. I continue to check my phone for updated messages from the district. The last message that I saw on our stream of breaking news was at 1:57 when MSCS announced that the lockdown had been lifted. Although the lockdown had been lifted, I have to reiterate, though, no one's really leaving the school. Parents are not allowed to come to the school at this very moment. So while there's a lockdown being lifted, there's still a heavy police presence, and this school still has a sense of being in the middle of this active investigation, despite that lockdown being lifted about 20 or so minutes ago. Yvonne.
Brad, thank you so much for the update. And parents, I know as hard as it is, please do your best to hang tight and know that your babies will be okay, and that hopefully you'll be able to soon go and get them from school. All right, if you're just now joining us here on ABC 24, let's talk about everything that we know right now about this situation. One thing, a task force officer with Memphis Police has been shot and is in critical but stable condition. That officer was taken to Regional 1 Hospital, and the school nearby, Jeter K-8, was on lockdown. But again, like Brad Broders has just reported, that has been lifted, and parents are now waiting on more information about when they can come and pick up their kids, because that street is still blocked off while investigators are doing their work. Also, while responding in this crash, and there, again, if you know anything about this shooting, you are encouraged to call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. And we have been continuously doing stream and live coverage of all of this. Regional 1 is definitely one of those scenes that we've been at. We have Zaria Oates that's been there covering that, and she just had a press conference with Officer Rudolph, who was giving us an information about exactly what we can see. Again, team coverage everywhere with Brad Broders, Zaria Oates, and Rebecca Butcher. Who can we take right now? Can we go to Zaria Oates at Regional 1? There we are. Zaria, what can you tell us that's new from your perspective?
Yes, Yvonne, what we know right now is still that Chief Davis is on the inside with the families that have arrived. We're still on the suspecting that there has been one family that has arrived so far. The other family, we're not quite sure, but there has been a call made to that family. Now, Karen Rudolph did say that some of these suspects have not been in custody, but as of right now, we're not sure if that's still the case. Now, we are updating that the suspects were in a silver car, but we're not quite sure if they're still in that vehicle. Now, right now, there are some cars still here behind me. If you see, there are some officers who have left the scene and then some officers who have come to the scene still blocking off that road because there has been a little bit more traffic than there was here before. But as of right now, we do not know any more updated information on those officers.
All right, Zaria, thank you so much. Breaking news into the newsroom right now. We have just been told that Doubletree Elementary School is now on lockdown. No information as to why at this point. I'm working to see how close in proximity that school is to the several different scenes that we're working on right now. Again, that is Doubletree Elementary that is now on lockdown, but do not confuse that with Jeter K through 8 that is not on lockdown. However, parents are not able at this point to get to their kids because of that investigation in the area and because police are still working that scene there. But again, Doubletree Elementary School is on lockdown right now. Okay, let's talk now about everything that we know, because we're getting more information. This is all becoming a little more clear. Rebecca Butcher is live at the scene right now. And Rebecca, what can you show us about what's happening right now on your end?
Yeah, well, Yvonne, we've been here at least an hour. We now have a new vantage point of the biggest scene of 3 that's been in the southwest Memphis, Whitehaven area. Going to step out of the way. We reported to you that in addition to the officer who was shot earlier today, that an officer, a separate officer who was trying to assist, crashed. Now, if you can see, we're going to zoom in. Yeah, we've zoomed in. That vehicle is in someone's yard right there at Shelby and Horn Lake Road. That officer has been rushed to Regional 1, non-critical, but that other car, I believe it's a black sedan, possibly, yeah, sedan, that person was also taken to Regional 1. We're still working to get information on his or her condition at this time. So things have been snowballing. First, we had an officer shot. MPD say that they were in the area conducting an investigation. We're still working to learn what type, if there was a warrant that was being served, or if they were responding to some other type of incident, domestic or non-domestic in nature. We've had adults and, of course, people who live in this area, being rerouted. And currently, to get all details they can from the scene right now, we have seen the Memphis Police Command Center roll in the last hour, typically a sign that they're going to be here for a while as they work not only this scene, but the other 2 as well. Now, as we've been reporting, I've been to all 3 scenes. We do know that this is the biggest one. There's another one at Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove that's a bit south of me right now. And then another one, the first one that I drove through, they were still working to get that crime tape up when I got here around the 1 o'clock hour. I'm sure they've gotten that crime tape up right now. We want to impress upon the public they still are looking for this shooter. Only description we have is just little details at this moment. A black male, working to learn what that person was wearing at the time of this incident. Again, that shooter hasn't been apprehended yet. If you have any information, call Crime Stoppers at number 901-528-CASH. Yvonne?
Rebecca, that is one of our first chances of actually seeing that crushed up MPD cruiser. We hadn't seen that yet in the last hour or so that we've been on the air. Also wanted to ask you as well, sometimes when all of these things happen, when an officer is shot, when there is an investigation of this magnitude, you see other agencies on different scenes like the TBI or the ATF. Have you seen them at this time?
Right now, we have not gotten any word that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is taking over this investigation. What typically happens is they take over when an officer shoots a citizen, but that was not the case in this incident. It was a citizen who shot an officer. So we have not seen TBI. We have not heard from them at this moment that they would be making their way to this scene. It would be Kelly McAllister who would make that known either by tweet or by phone to us. We have not yet gotten information from her at this time, but usually they come when they are taking over the investigation. Right now, we have not seen any other crews. I've had my eye out trying to see if maybe DeSoto County Sheriffs or South Haven Police might be assisting at this time, but it looks like MPD has been handling this investigation up until this point.
Rebecca, thank you so much. We really appreciate the update. Another big update that just came into our newsroom just a few way from this investigation. Again, that is Doubletree Elementary on lockdown. And let's not get that confused with Jeter K through 8. That is not on lockdown. They were on lockdown a little earlier today, but that lockdown has been lifted by the district. And unfortunately, parents haven't been able to come and get their kids and pick them up for dismissal at Jeter K through 8. It is likely the same scene near Doubletree Elementary that parents most likely are not able to come and pick up their kids. But again, Doubletree Elementary is on lockdown as police search for the shooter and continue this investigation as well. For those of you that are just joining us at 2:32 this afternoon, we've been doing coverage on everything we know about this shooting so far. I want to walk you through the highlights of what we know right now as more information has been continuously pouring into our newsroom. And again, for us, we're trying to piece it all together. Officers are giving us as much as they can while they work. We've been told that this all unfolded around noon this afternoon. One scene was at Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove. That's in southwest Memphis. We've been told that an officer, an MPD task force officer, was shot. That officer was in the area in southwest Memphis on investigation. The details of that right now are unclear. Police have not been able to tell us what exactly that investigation was. We also were told by police that another officer was trying to assist this officer, and that second officer had a crash. Rebecca Butcher was able to show us what looked like could have been that MPD cruiser that was really mangled up and mashed up. That second officer is expected to be okay. The officer in the hospital, we want to make abundantly clear, is in critical but stable condition. That officer is at Regional 1. Now, another thing that police need your help with, they need help finding the shooter. Police have given us a little information about the car that they're looking for. It is a 2015 silver Infiniti Q40. That license plate is 2X45F8. Again, 2X45F8. It is a Tennessee license plate. That is all of the information that we have about this suspect, who we believe or know to be a male. But if you have any information, you are strongly encouraged to call Crime Stoppers. That number is one we know very well. It's 901-528-CASH. All right, let's go now back to Regional 1 Hospital, where Zaria Oates has been keeping us updated. Zaria, what can you see from your vantage point? Have things changed on the scene at all?
Yeah, Yvonne, a lot of the traffic here has slowed down and even come to a complete stop to where it normally is, of regular cars coming in and out. No new ambulances have come to the scene. As of what we know right now, Officer 1, who was shot, is in critical condition but is still stable as of right now. And Officer 2, who was involved in that car crash and is injured, is in non-critical condition. Now, as of right now, we still have this cop car who has not seemingly moved, but not much else has happened here other than that press conference that we had earlier with Commander Karen Rudolph. Now, Rudolph did say that Chief Davis would be speaking to the media, but Chief Davis did not come out here and give us any information, as Chief Davis is currently with the family that is inside of the hospital. Now, we aren't sure which families are inside of the hospital, but at least one has made it out here since the incident happened. Yvonne, that's all we've got for you right now.
Zaria, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And again, just seeing that large police presence there, it definitely is a heavy and heartbreaking day for them to know that one of their officers, a brother or a sister in blue, has been shot. Have you seen police officers? We see their cars, but have you seen them come in and out of the hospital at this time?
Yeah, Yvonne, earlier when the scene was still pretty live and pretty hectic, there were many police officers who were pulling up to the scene with their lights on and flashing, and many officers who were coming in and out of the hospital and then going back into their cars to leave once we did know that the officer was in stable condition. Now, we do believe that the officer still is in stable condition, but, you know, that police presence of other officers and other brothers and sisters in blue has come down. Yvonne, back to you.
Zaria, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Again, new information, the newest information that we've gotten into our newsroom right now is that Doubletree Elementary School is on lockdown. But let us not confuse Doubletree Elementary with Jeter K through 8, which is not on lockdown right now. That is where Brad Broders is. That's near the crime scene. Let's go now to Brad to see what's new with him in that area.
Yeah, Yvonne, a fluid situation, every live hit, there's something different. In the last 2 minutes, one school bus just showed up. You can see that right here on Horn Lake. Now, I want to caution, it's only one school bus. You can also see right now that police officers continue to be on this property. It looks like some might be getting in their patrol vehicles, and it appears they might be driving away. So it appears that there is some sign of life, Yvonne, for this stretch of Shelby Drive in Horn Lake, where Jeter K-8 school potentially reopening soon. And if that's the case, then parents can come if they want to pick up their child early before the dismissal, if they so choose, because this situation happened in the noon hour. So understandably, some concerned parents, because that shooting happened at the 12 o'clock hour. The lockdown here at Jeter K-8 school not lifted until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So what, about more than a half an hour ago. As I mentioned in the last live hit over here in this section at this scene, Yvonne, though, although the lockdown has been lifted, this school is very much still quiet with activity, at least until now, when a couple police vehicles are leaving the scene. But parents are still not allowed to come to this area to pick up their children. So right now, until that happens, they can't get here to get their children. Although, again, I have to reiterate, one bus did show up. I believe this, not entirely sure of this dismissal at the school, but if it's 3 o'clock, then we're less than half an hour from dismissal at Jeter K-8 school. So we're going to continue to see signs of any kind of life of reopening this section. I know there's a lot of parents out there, Jeter parents, who are wanting to come get their child, because again, that lockdown was lifted a little bit before 2 o'clock. But at this very moment, I have to reiterate, Horn Lake, if you're coming off of 61, making a left towards Shelby Drive, that section of Horn Lake is stopped for now. You have to be turned around, and they're also not allowing traffic in Shelby Drive. And so it looks like not quite sure where the school bus is heading now. It appeared that they were going to be here to be able to pick up the children, but it looks like cones are here, so we're just waiting on word right now, Yvonne, of when children can be dismissed and when parents can come and pick up their children. Live in Southwest Memphis, I'm Brad Broders.
Brad, thank you so much. We appreciate the update. Hopefully a very hopeful update for parents, that at least a little bit of traffic is happening in that area, with that school bus even being able to come through. All right, let's do a recap of everything we know right now. We've been told that at noon is when a lot of this started unfolding, when we were told that an MPD officer, a task force officer, was shot and taken to Regional 1 Hospital. We have been live with team coverage there all afternoon with Zaria Oates giving us an update. But I want to walk you through everything that we know right now, because information is coming in and out. The situation is very fluid from our end as we're receiving all of this information from police and doing our best to give it to you in a way that you can really understand it. There's 3 big things that are happening right now, and I want to walk you through what we know. First, we know an MPD officer was shot, a task force officer. That officer was transported to Regional 1. That person is in critical but stable condition. A very important update on him or her. We've also been told by police that a second officer was hurt in a crash while trying to assist this first officer. That second officer is expected to be okay as well. At last check, Police Chief Davis was with families at the hospital. Not sure if it's Officer 1 family or if it's the second officer's family, but she is there with them as well. We're hoping that we can hear from her in the next few minutes or hours to come about this investigation. We don't know much about what led up to this shooting, other than the first officer was in that area in Southwest Memphis on investigation. Those are all the details we have right now. But police are asking for your help today as well. They're looking for the shooter. That shooter, they've been told, or they're looking for a car connected to that shooter. That is a 2015 Silver Infiniti Q40. That license plate is a Tennessee license plate, 2X45F8. Again, 2X45F8. If you have seen this car, if you know anything about what has happened, you can call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. Another big update, probably one of the newest pieces of information that we've gotten into our newsroom right now, and it's one that parents need to know. That Doubletree Elementary is on lockdown right now. Again, that is about 3, maybe 4 miles, about 10 minutes away from this crime scene. And that's all the information we know about that at this time. We're going to keep parents updated, as I'm sure it's, getting closer to 3 o'clock and you're waiting to go and pick up your babies. We're going to let you know everything we know about that lockdown, but also Jeter K-8, where Brad Broders is. That school is not on lockdown. It was earlier today, but that lockdown has been lifted. However, parents haven't been able to go and get their kids just yet because the street is still blocked off during this investigation. Okay, again, we have team coverage around all over this, making sure that we have the most current and updated information. Let's go now to Rebecca Butcher, who is live at that scene in Southwest Memphis. Rebecca, any changes on your end at this point?
Yvonne, I can tell you that this scene is still active. Not much has changed. This is still the biggest scene out of 3 on this road here near Shelby Drive. We're right now here near Horn Lake Road as well as Shelby Drive. The scene right here is a response to an officer who was shot earlier today. They, like you said, are still looking for that shooter. So we want to impress upon, anyone who might have heard anything, seen anything, any eyewitnesses, contact Crime Stoppers. Of course, that number always 901-528-CASH. But also here, it's 2 things going on. We got a crash from another officer who was trying to assist the officer who was shot. Well, they crashed and wrecked with a citizen who was driving a black sedan. Now, you can see that MPD officer crashed. We're zoomed in on it, I believe. You can see that officer crashed in someone's front yard, mangled, a lot of damage there. We know that officer from police is expected to be okay, was taken to Regional 1. That other driver who was in that black car, we're still working to learn how that person is. A lot of wreckage to that. So we're still working to learn. We're hoping that person is okay as well, that was just driving through this area, trying to get to where they were going. So at this about the last half hour, we've seen the Memphis Police Command Center pull up here. Always a sign that they are going to be camped out here while they work and continue their investigation, collecting details, whether that involves shells casings, whatever they need to collect to connect the dots of not 1 but 3 scenes here in the Southwest Memphis and Whitehaven area. The first scene that I pulled up to was further south. The second scene, a little bit closer this way, was at Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove. It was in a residential area. I did see police speaking with a citizen there, and I'm not sure if that was someone who just lived in the area or was connected somehow to this incident. Now, what we've learned from police is that the officer who was shot earlier today by this citizen, this shooter, that officer was out on an investigation. We're still working to learn the details of their business out here, what was going on surrounding the circumstances surrounding that officer being shot, what led up to that. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with that officer and that officer's family, and we're still working to learn more about the shooter at this point. We don't know anything. We don't know much. We know police have said they are looking for a black male. We're working to learn more details, of course, maybe what clothing the person was wearing. We have gotten a suspect vehicle description of a silver Infiniti. We've been having the plates up for that. So if you know anything, heard anything, we definitely want you to reach out to Crime Stoppers. Again, that number 901-528-CASH. We still have seen guardians of Jeter school kids still out here. Although that lockdown has been lifted, we're hearing from one guardian they still have not been able to get to their little one, their niece at this time. She got a text from her niece. She said frantic at the time. At that time, she still hadn't heard from MSCS, so I'll be getting back in contact with her to see if that has changed at this hour. Of course, when we know more, we'll update you. Yvonne?
Rebecca, definitely a lot going on, especially now you're saying that you've had a chance to speak with some people who have kids at Jeter K-8. Are you able to tell us how many people are still out there looking at that scene? Not investigators, but just people in general in the community that are there.
Yeah, it's at least about 5 or 6 people. It seems like maybe some parents or some mothers are here camped out, shaded in the area, still trying to get some more information. I did see someone, a younger fella who might have been just graduated school in the area or still a student himself, still trying to figure out what was going on. It was him that told us about this crash before police did, actually, about that person. We're hoping again they're okay, but people definitely want to know where the shooter is. They want the shooter captured so they can get back to life and get back to getting their kids. Of course, we hope that officer is okay, and the quicker that shooter can get apprehended, the quicker things can kind of go back to normal here. Yvonne?
Rebecca, thank you so much. We really appreciate that update. Let's go now and take a live look at a different scene. This would be a different scene here at Doubletree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary. Now here at ABC 24, we are all about facts, not fear. We can't confirm anything about this scene right now. We do want to say that this could be to protect the students as the Doubletree shooting or the Doubletree school is on lockdown. But again, this is another scene that we are watching very, very closely at Doubletree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary. Again, facts, and we'll bring them to you when we have them. But again, another scene that we're watching as well. And we have team coverage all over these developments. Again, this is so fluid for us as we're trying to learn more information about what's going on and what will happen in the hours and the days to come as police are continuing their investigation right now and as they're looking for that shooter. Let's walk you through everything that we know so far while we have a minute if you're just joining us now at 2:47 this afternoon. We've been told that this all unfolded around noon. One major scene, Horn Lake Road and Horn Lake Cove, that's in southwest Memphis, where an officer was shot. That officer was with Memphis Police. It's a task force officer. He or she was shot, sent to Regional 1 Hospital, and that person is in critical but stable condition. We do know that the officer was in an area on investigation. That's the biggest detail that police could give us about all of that. Again, there is a second officer that was actually trying to assist the first officer in this incident. That second officer was hurt in a crash and was also taken to Regional 1 Hospital, but that person should be okay. Speaking of Regional 1, Zaria Oates is there right now, keeping us up to date with everything that we know so far. Zaria, we were hoping to speak with the police chief or hear from the police chief sometime soon, but it sounds like she's very busy with family.
Good afternoon, Yvonne. Yeah, it does seem as though the police chief is busy with family. Chief Davis was supposed to come out here and speak with the media, but she did not. It seems as though they replaced her with Memphis Police Department's Commander of Public Information, Karen Rudolph, who came out here earlier and as of around 2 p.m. said that there were no suspects in custody. However, at the time, both officers were in stable condition, with the first officer who was shot being in stable condition but in critical condition, and the officer that was not shot but in a car accident was in non-critical condition. Now, we do not have any other updates regarding the officers. However, we are hoping that the communications team does come out here and give us another update. Again, we did have that presser with Karen Rudolph regarding the suspects and the current state of the officers. Yvonne, that's all I've got for right now.
Sorry, we appreciate that. I do want to mention this as well, too, though. When incidents like this happen, you see a lot of police presence in front of that hospital. And you see that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, for safety of the officers, the families that are there, but also as a sign of support and solidarity. Zaria, has the outside, the police presence there, has that changed in the last hour or so for you?
You know, Yvonne, it has changed a little bit, but it doesn't mean that the solidarity is not there. It seems as though at the beginning of the incident, lots of police cars came in with their lights on, showing immediate support, trying to block off streets, as is standard for when an officer is shot or injured in the line of duty. However, since the incident has calmed down just a little bit, some of the officers have left the scene or even stayed at the scene with their lights on, like some officers here behind me, but they have not left the scene completely. They're just kind of clearing the area, making sure that other people who do need to get into the hospital are able to park here and get inside of the hospital. Now, some officers have gone inside and come back outside and left and, you know, come and go, but the officers do seem to continue to come through the hospital to show their support for their fellow soldier.
Zaria, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And they need all the support and the love and prayer that they can get at this time. All right, let's go now back to this live picture, Doubletree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary. Now, this could be a scene to protect students as the Doubletree school is on lockdown right now. We were just notified about that lockdown maybe about 20 minutes or so ago. All right, that is again a scene that we're watching very closely to make sure the kids are okay, and we'll bring you the latest information when we know more developments that come from that. Let's go now to Brad Broders, who is live at Jeter K-8 school. Oh, he is, okay, he is headed to the scene at Doubletree Elementary School, or to that scene as well. We're gonna get an update from him when we know more about that also. Okay, let's walk you through a lot of everything that we know right now, because there is a lot of information that we've been getting within the last hour or so, maybe hour and a half of everything that's happened so far. We know that this incident happened around noon this afternoon, where an officer was shot. The most recent, most up-to-date information on that officer's condition at this time is that the first officer was shot in critical but stable condition at Regional 1. This all happened in southwest Memphis, as you saw on that map. There was a second officer involved. That second officer was actually hurt in a crash trying to assist the first one, but that second officer is expected to be okay. Chief Davis, again, is speaking with families and comforting them at this time. And we totally understand and respect that as well. And we have been given updates from officers about what's happened. This is the latest information that we have. They are looking for a shooter. This is all the information that we know about the shooter and this person's possible vehicle. They're looking for a silver Infiniti with a Tennessee license plate TX45F8. Again, a silver 2015 Q40 Infiniti is what they're looking for. And they're asking anyone with information to call 901-528-CASH and let police know. We have been at 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different scenes at this point, piecing together all of the information that we have right now. And again, we're going to keep you updated here on air, but also online and through our mobile app. So if you haven't already downloaded that mobile app, this is a great time to go ahead and do that so that you don't miss an update while we're trying to bring you more information about what's happening. Parents, here's a big update for you as well. Doubletree Elementary School at last check is still on lockdown, and Jeter K-8 is not on lockdown. But at last check, we weren't able to see any crews coming in and out of either one of those places because police are working very closely nearby on all of this. They're seeing several places in southwest Memphis. This is a live look in a picture right now. You can see a lot of police in that area. You can also see what looks to be maybe an ambulance in that area, but several cars. I believe this is the area of Doubletree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary. It looks like they could be looking for someone in the neighborhood. We're going to keep you updated on that, as this, again, is one of these things that we're watching very closely to see what comes out of it. But again, this is Deer Tree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary. All right. Let's go now. All right, let's talk about the app that you can use while we're getting these updates, and again, while we're trying our best to give them to you both on air and online. That app is free to download in the App Store and Google Play, and we will, of course, give you pressing updates, and we'll push them out to you to your phone and to your mobile device. All right, let's go now to Rebecca Butcher, who has been live for more than an hour, hours at this point, at the scene in southwest Memphis. Rebecca, what can you tell us?
Well, Yvonne, this is the biggest scene of 3 that I have personally been at today. This is right now here near Shelby Drive and also Horn Lake Road. I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on. Since we've been here, Memphis Police Command Center has come in at least the last half hour to an hour. Big sign that they're going to be camped out here for a while they still large investigation and involving 3 scenes, like I said. First, we know an officer was shot earlier today around the noon hour, and we know that officer has been taken to Regional 1, he or she in critical but stable condition. So they're still monitoring that person, that officer, to make sure they're okay, that task force officer. Now, another officer involved and was responding in assisting the officer who was shot. They crashed with a black sedan. Now, we're going to zoom into that police car already. That officer crashed and landed in someone's front yard. That black car also landed there. as well, not far from that front yard. We've heard that officer who crashed is expected to be okay. The condition of that citizen driver in that black car, unknown. Now, it looks like we do have an ambulance coming through that area where Shelby Drive is. No word. We're assuming that is a different scene that they're coming to, since the scene has been here for over an hour and things have been pretty steady here, but they let that ambulance go through. We have seen a few ATF officers on scene here as well. What we have not seen, what law enforcement agency we've not seen is TBI or any other Mississippi departments or law enforcement assisting in this right now. What we do know, though, is that the shooter, the person who shot this task force officer, is still on the run, still on the loose. So if you have any information on who that person is or where they might have fled to, we want you to call Crime Stoppers at number 901-528-CASH, like it always is. What we know about that gunman or that gun, the person who fired that gun and shot that officer, is black male and was last seen in a silver Infiniti, and we've been telling you the plate numbers of that car as well. So once again, we have seen guardians and parents who have children at Jeter School. That lockdown has since lifted since we initially reported that about an hour ago or so, and now we have a lockdown at Doubletree Elementary, like we've been reporting there. Our Brad Broders is on the way there if he's not there yet. So of course, parents have actually been coming to this scene worried, trying to figure out what's going on, because they hadn't heard yet from MSCS at last check. Yvonne?
Rebecca, thank you so much. We just have heard from MSCS, and right now we can tell you Westwood High School and Chickasaw Middle School are on a precautionary lockdown as well. Now, we told you about the Doubletree being on lockdown and lockdown at Jeter. Now, right now, this is another look at the Doubletree area. This is Doubletree Street and Deer Trail Lane near Doubletree Elementary School. And again, that might even be an ambulance that's on the scene as well. But again, Westwood High School, Doubletree Elementary School, Chickasaw Middle School, all on a precautionary lockdown right now. They're about 5 minutes away from each other from what we've been able to look up on Google Maps. But again, this is quite a scene. It looks like in a neighborhood, possibly, where police are continuing their investigation. Let's just say that. They're continuing their investigation. We want to give you facts. And this is definitely an area that we're still trying to look at, and we're going to keep you updated. I believe we have a crew member that's on their way to the scene as well to give us some live updates also. All right. We're going to have live updates later. All right. Thank you so much for staying with us and staying by us. We're going to keep you updated both on air, online, and on social media as we learn more details about what's unfolding right now. Again, a great time to download our app, ABC 24 News app. You can find it for free on Google Play.